Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me is Andrew Meadows.
Well, hello.
And joining us for this very special episode is a very special guest by the name of Henrique Jaime, or as we like to call him, Henry. Henry, welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. How are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Thank you, Colton. Thank you, Andrew, for having me. I'm pretty excited to be joining you all today for this episode.
It's long overdue. We've been meaning to have you on for quite a while, so we're thrilled to have you on. If you would be so kind, kind of just tell us about yourself, or I guess really tell the listeners. You don't really need to tell us, I guess. But,
yeah, I guess you both know me. But yeah, so I know Colton from back in our high school days, which is kind of when these movies that we're talking about today came out. And then since Colton and Andrew were best friends naturally, Andrew and I became friends. And after that, Colton and I went to college, did our thing, went our separate ways. I'm now in Philly, finishing up med school. And, we try to stay in touch, talk about some movies, especially superhero sci-fi ones. And I'm pretty excited about the movies we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, and on that note, we're going to be talking all about the Marvel Cinematic Universe today, and specifically we're going to be talking about Phase 1 for the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Now, it's important to note, not to cut you off.
No, absolutely.
It's important to note, this is the beginning of a 3-part miniseries from Watch, Review, Repeat, featuring our special guest, Henry.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, that is definitely worth mentioning. And just to kind of expand on that, we're doing these 3 episodes here as kind of a set of bonus episodes that are going to be part of our Patreon rewards tier that we offer. So basically, if you want to listen to this episode early, if you are listening to this episode early, that means you are a patron already, and you kind of donated to us through Patreon, in which case, yeah, thank you. We greatly appreciate that. That's awesome of you. If you're listening to this sometime in the future, that means that you are not a patron just yet, but you still can be. And, we're going to be doing more of these. We're going to be doing 2 more episodes on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, you're missing out. So why would you not do it? It helps us out. Basically, it's just to cover our costs. We're not trying to make money off this. We're really just trying to keep this a little bit more sustainable for us going forward. And in return, we're giving you guys an opportunity to get some really cool shit out of it. So you're going to get bonus episodes like these. You're going to get early access to our regular episodes before anyone else. And there's a couple other rewards in it for you. So if you are listening to this later on, make sure you go to patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat. You're going to find all the information you need there.
Or the premium section on our website. Which was
very diligently designed by both Andrew and myself. Mostly Andrew.
It's a nice looking website, I gotta say.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, the buttons at the top right, too. Pretty cool.
Pretty spiffy, especially the way they highlight,
What, you talking about that blue?
Exactly. Yeah, that light blue.
Well, I'm glad you enjoy that blue. I worked for that fucking blue. Okay, we don't need to talk about it, but it took me quite a while to get that shit blue. It was a fun endeavor. I'm glad you enjoy it.
Well, I think we can pretty much get right into it here. So, I did want to kind of preface, at least certainly on this first episode, what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is, and I would imagine that most people have seen at least one movie that has been released as part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but maybe they're not 100% familiar with kind of what the kind of central conceit of it is, how extensive it really is, and kind of the cultural impact I think that it's had on Hollywood basically over the last decade.
It's developed a genre, essentially, right? There's a whole, superhero film, before that.
In some ways. Well, I think superhero films have been around for quite a while, but it kind of revolutionized it in a way that you have pretty much every major company trying to replicate the formula, if you will, of what Marvel Studios has been able to accomplish with their cinematic universe. Most, I would say, have been very unsuccessful in doing so. And we've bagged on a certain company quite extensively on our episodes on Watch Review Repeat, but that is neither here nor there. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is, at this point in time, the highest-grossing film franchise of all time. Collectively, it has grossed $13.5 billion worldwide. That's a lot of money. Now,
that is a lot of money.
That's across 17 films that have been released since 2008. Currently on the slate, as of recording this, we know that there are 7 more films in the franchise coming through 2020, and it's not going to stop there. Unless the world explodes, not unrealistic to think of that as an actual possibility. But assuming that the world continues to spin on from that point, we're going to get more Marvel movies. And
unless we get a Cloverfield paradox, is that what you're trying to say?
I don't know. I think you might have just spoiled it for me. There's just so much content. There's so much to enjoy, and there's so much variety really in it that it's really impressive. And it's expanded beyond movies. There's 10 television shows that have actually been released already. There's been over 200 episodes that have been released collectively, and that's not including forthcoming episodes, forthcoming television shows. So, I mean, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. Basically, what really Marvel has been able to accomplish with everything they've done with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And Marvel kind of in the beginning basically made their money, and they made very little money in doing so, but basically, they kind of sold off a lot of their licenses to the characters that they owned to other major studios, your Universals, your Paramounts, your Foxes,
Sony.
your Sonys. Yeah, exactly. And in doing so, they kind of negotiated it so that they would get a cut of like merchandising sales and stuff like that. But they really didn't get a whole lot of actual, money from the box office takes that those movies, came away with. So, I mean, Marvel wasn't really in a great spot in the early 2000s. So it really wasn't until 2004 that they kind of came up with this plan to say, hey, let's do our own thing. We have some of these characters still around, still in our back pockets. Instead of, making pennies on the dollar, let's make dollars on the dollar. I mean, you're kind of pissing away money with the way that they've been, with the way that they had kind of operated up to that point. So a guy by the name of David Mizell, hired as the chief operating officer, basically kind of spearheaded this whole thing, secured a loan from Merrill Lynch, secured distribution from Paramount, and basically, when he kind of joined the company, they were debating selling the Thor and Captain America licenses over to Sony, and he basically nixed that deal right when he got there. The film rights for Iron Man reverted, I think in 2005, and then both Hulk and Black Widow character rights had also been reverted by 2006. So 2006, the pieces are in place. You have all these characters on the table. What do you do with them?
It's time to make fucking bank.
Exactly. It's time to make fucking bank. And, Marvel Studios at this point, it exists, but it hasn't done anything with it yet. And pretty much March 2007, one of the founders of Marvel Studios, Avi Arad, who had produced a lot of superhero films in the early 2000s, the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, particularly, he bails. He bails on the whole thing. Kevin Feige, who we now know as our overlord, Kevin Feige.
We get checks from him every day, or every month. We get checks from Kevin. Kevin's a good man.
Yeah, he's doing the Lord's work. Let's put it that way.
I do call him Kev. When he calls me on the phone, call him Kev.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't. I don't call him Kev, so I'm a little offended actually.
Yeah, me and Kev's pretty tight.
I call him Mr. Feige. I'm trying to be respectful because I want those checks to keep coming. All right. He's named president of production March 2007, and at this point, Marvel has basically put into production their first independently developed film, which is Iron Man. Now, we're going to get into Iron Man in just a second. I'm going to jump ahead just temporarily. We talk about Disney all the fucking time on this podcast. All the fucking time. 2009, and then again, this is jumping ahead a little bit in time, so we're gonna time travel a bit. I don't know if that ties into your fucking Cloverfield bullshit.
As a matter of fact, no, I'm joking.
Anyway, like you said, 2009, Disney acquires Marvel for $4 billion. So this is a company that had earlier in that decade been worth not even close to that. Let's put it that way. And so Disney kind of, assumes all the creative control over Marvel, all the distribution rights over Marvel pretty much at a certain point beyond that. So the distribution started with the Avengers and carried forward from that point on, but the structure kind of generally remained intact. I mean, it's still Marvel Studios through and through, but I did want to make that note because we have talked so much about Disney on this podcast that I did want to kind of make a little bit of note that, hey, that's kind of where things changed hand to Disney. And, now Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, all these ridiculous franchises are pretty much synonymous. Yeah, well, yeah, they're fucking rolling the dough. So, anyway, that's kind of the brief, I guess, somewhat abbreviated history of Marvel Studios and kind of how the Marvel Cinematic Universe kind of came to be. To really kind of find out how it came to be the phenomenon that it is, you got to start at the beginning. And you got to start with Iron Man, released in May of 2008. This is where it all started.
Damn, it's 10 years ago?
It's coming on 10 years ago. It's insane to think about. It really is. I mean, where do you really begin with Iron Man? So, okay, let me preface
Downey
this.
Jr. Where do you
You
want
start
to
with Robert Downey Jr. Well,
Yeah.
I'll give a little bit of a rundown. I mean, I think anyone listening to this has probably seen Iron Man, but it's directed by Jon Favreau. This is the guy that really kind of really introduced us to what Marvel Cinematic Universe was. It's written by Mark Fergus, Hawk Ostby, co-creators of The Expanse, as a side note.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
They do good work. And then Art Markham and Matt Holloway, who I'm not familiar with, but they did good work on this movie, so respect for that. So yes, Robert Downey Jr., certainly at the time that he was cast as Tony Stark / Iron Man, had kind of been through a lot of personal struggles in and out of jail, a lot of drug and alcohol issues. So it's certainly not a safe pick, when you think about a leading actor to really kind of set your franchise,
right?
And really kind of get things going. But
kudos to whoever his agent is, because he is. I mean, he essentially from Iron Man on, he branded that character with himself. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he was the embodiment for Marvel for so long. I mean, at least the first, maybe the second phases. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I wonder how this turns out if you have somebody else other than RDJ as Iron Man, like someone who just doesn't capture it the same way as he does.
Well, interestingly enough, I mean, kind of on that note, and I mentioned how Marvel had spent a lot of time licensing their characters. Iron Man was one of those characters that had been licensed, so that was over at New Line Cinemas, and they had tried making an Iron Man movie, I think, like at least 2 or 3 separate times, and at one point, Tom Cruise, the cruise missile himself,
I have heard this, yeah,
was attached to star as Tony Stark. Now, we love the cruise missile here at the podcast. We love the cruise missile, but I wonder, and it's an extremely valid question, is does it work without RDJ? I mean, I think it doesn't. I mean,
I don't know, yeah.
He's so fucking perfect for this role. It's insane how perfect he is for this role, and how well he embodies the character. I mean, when you look at Robert Downey Jr., I mean, yeah, he's played Sherlock Holmes and certainly some other roles, but when you see Robert Downey Jr., when anyone sees fucking Robert Downey Jr. these days, they see fucking Iron Man. It's fucking Iron Man. Yeah, I mean, or Tony Stark, if you want to, or are they one and the same? Who's to say? That's the starting point. I agree with that. Robert Downey Jr. he's just the embodiment of that character, and it's amazing how well he plays the character. As when we kind of go to flashback to where he is prior to when he gets captured by the Ten Rings, we kind of see him as cocky,
arrogant playboy, man. Rich fucking playboy.
Yeah, exactly.
And he owns it so well.
He does, and he's perfect at that. But I think what elevates his performance, I think what elevates him into that, I mean, to the point where he is inseparable from this role, is the fact that when we follow him through this journey in the movie, from being just the hotshot playboy to someone that kind of renounces his ways, not entirely, certainly in terms of kind of his weapons manufacturing, he certainly has a change of heart in that regard. But from he still is the same character at the core. It doesn't feel like a massive shift in his characterization. He's still got the same personality traits and quirks, but you just fucking 100% buy into what Downey Jr. is selling as far as being able to kind of evolve from, like I said, just that hotshot playboy to being someone that knows that he can actually put his intelligence, put his mind to making a real difference in the world. And in many ways, not to get too heavy on you guys, but in many ways he's playing himself, right? He struggled and persevered, and with Iron Man, with this character, he gets to portray those personal growths, and it's actually a really good personal story for Robert Downey Jr. You know what I mean? Not only as is it a great career move and everything else, but the actual story of how this is almost it's such a critical event for him personally. Because I think he's the highest paid actor, or was the highest paid actor at some point. He's up there,
right? I know he was at some point. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
So he catapulted himself with this movie, and this is fresh after he was, after he had been, after he had struggled with everything that he went through, for 10 years or something like that. He had a long hiatus where he didn't really do much of anything. And then boom, Iron Man, you know what I mean? And it changed everything in a really big way. It's a pretty awesome story for him at a personal level, Yeah.
I'm not saying never has a greater Phoenix persona, or I fucked up the line.
I think we know what you
never has a greater Phoenix metaphor been personified. Wait, hold on. That's the wrong movie, isn't it? Well, fuck.
Iron Man 2. Yeah.
You ruined my joke, son of a bitch. Let's move on. Okay. So outside of Robert Downey Jr., we could talk about RDJ in this movie forever. Kind of outside of specifically RDJ, outside of kind of Tony Stark, I think what really makes this movie for me is that this is kind of, we've seen origin stories and superhero movies certainly, but in terms of kind of Marvel Cinematic Universe, this really fucking set the template for the origin story, it did it so effectively. And like I said, I think it's because of A, his performance, and B, just because you can kind of just follow the natural progression of his character kind of throughout every stop that he makes, towards becoming a hero. But it's a gritty setting, and it's kind of juxtaposed with the heightened technology, and that we kind of see, the arc reactor technology. It's all slightly elevated above reality, but it's close enough that it feels very real. It feels like a lived-in world. It feels very close to what we see now, and it obviously, as the movies kind of expand, it kind of gets shit gets cray from that point on. But this one, it does feel very grounded, without, and not in a Dark Knight kind of way where it's trying to make everything super realistic and grounded. It's just in the sense that, hey, what's the most logical way to make this approachable? Just make it similar enough that you can just 100% buy into everything that you see. And
they took it to the Middle East.
Yeah, they did a great job of modernizing it. So I think in the comics, I think it was the Vietnam War. I think that kind of is the original setting for where it gets kind of captured, and where he gets the inspiration to create that Mark I armor. And so they modernized it. Definitely a good move, I would say, to kind of bring it into the modern day. Certainly, there's a lot of certainly at the time, and really I guess through today too. There was a lot of certainly real life events going on that they could really kind of draw on. So yeah. I feel like I'm talking a lot. I mean, let's kind of open this up for you guys. I mean, kind of what sticks out for you guys of something that you guys enjoyed, you didn't enjoy, just really anything. I mean, when you think about Iron Man, what comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Robert Downey Jr. Like we just spent a lot of time talking about him, but he even I think physically, when you look at him with his facial hair and everything, like you pull up a comic and he just looks like he's ripped straight from the comics.
Especially a lot of the newer comics, right? Did they?
I think they've been influenced a little bit by him.
Okay,
even the older comics too. No,
even the older ones, yeah. You know, like the Iron Man suits look just straight from the comic, minus like obviously not the super old like 1960s where he's wearing like this yellow like rubber suit with like pieces of red metal on top of it.
To preface this, I think that out of the three of us, I think you, Henry, I think you've read the most comic books. I think you're the most active in the comic books. Colton, do you agree with that? Do you think Henry's read more than you have with comics?
Maybe on the Marvel side, because I'm pretty far behind on DC.
It's probably fair. I collect a lot of comic books. Does that count? I think if sometimes I buy
Henry
them and I
actually
assume
reads
that I
his
can
shit,
just
okay?
absorb the knowledge from by looking at the cover. I'm like, that's a fucking cool ass cover. This is probably a sweet ass issue. I'll find out in a few years. So I think that's a fair statement. Although to be fair, I would say that certainly in my youth, I spent a lot of time, even if it wasn't directly digesting and absorbing comic books. I spent a lot of time just fucking reading up on all these characters.
Right.
So I have a lot of familiarity with source material, with certain arcs and stuff like that, even if I haven't gone
Personally
to the source and read them.
right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like you have a really good overview and like overlay of the land, like just general, like all comic arcs,
encompassing knowledge through osmosis.
Yeah, I'm good at memorizing useless shit. So yes, fair.
Yeah.
Either way, you can continue on. So Robert Downey Jr. really embodies the character of Iron Man, down to the source material.
I think one thing that I don't know if we were going to talk about, but like Jarvis is like so cool, and especially seeing him in the later movies, which I'm sure we'll talk about in the second episode, maybe even this episode a little bit more. But I look at technology today and like the Alexa, and that's basically Jarvis, in the future, or like Alexa in the future would be a Jarvis.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean that is a cool comparison to make. Yeah. Everyone wants a Jarvis, right? I mean,
yeah, like
I want a Jarvis. Fuck yeah, I want a Jarvis.
Yeah, no, that's a fun comparison to make. I didn't really even kind of consider that. Of course, I don't actually have an Alexa, so I say that I want a Jarvis. But I think I tell you what I'm a fan of is his fucking cool little holograms and shit that he can actually kind of manipulate in real time. Like,
very much.
That's what I want. That's what I want. When's that coming? Yeah. Is that a thing yet? That's not a thing, right? I don't want to sound like an idiot.
Well, the holograms are not a thing, but no, none of it's a thing. Not yet.
Not yet. We're waiting for Tony Stark to come in and IRL.
At the same time, I feel like maybe Elon Musk probably has.
That's exactly what I was thinking about.
He's probably got a hologram room where he throws shit around and has little robot characters that he talks to, and Alexa that's like an actual AI. He probably has that shit.
Mm-hmm.
But
probably. Anyway, let's talk about kind of some of the supporting characters. So, this is our first introduction to Gwyneth Paltrow's Pepper Potts. We kind of get a will they, won't they kind of thing working throughout this movie. A lot of really good chemistry, I'd say. Gwyneth Paltrow definitely seems to be insane in real life, but I do like her a lot here. Who else we got? We've got Terrence Howard's one and only appearance in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
You have to feel bad for Terrence Howard on this one.
Not
this movie, but just in the whole picture.
He's doing all right for himself. I think he'll survive. Yeah. And we got
Jeff.
Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
It's fucking Jeff Bridges, man.
and are we? Let me ask you a question. We're not really talking. Are we just bantering about these movies in any sort of order, or are we just kind of talking about them, then we're moving on?
Well, we're going in release order, but
I mean,
plot order necessarily.
no. We're just going general musings for no. We say we're keeping this pretty loose, just kind of what comes to mind. So yeah,
I feel like for the first two portions of the movie, Jeff Bridges nailed it, and then when he became something other than a like a political villain, and he tried to become
Ironmonger?
But when he suited up, I just kind of that's exactly what I did. It's like it's cool that this guy he's a corporate dude, and he tries to put a hit on Tony so he could take over the company and all this other shit. It's cool. It's very believable. He owns it. It's good stuff. And then he wants to hop into a suit of his own. And it's like, the third act of that movie felt very flat for me. But 2/3 of it was good, I would say.
How ironic, Tony! He gave the world its best weapon, and now I'm gonna kill you with it.
See, it's not even what it's a fucking stupid line, But the box, Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box full of scraps. Is fucking. It's a timeless fucking line. It's so good.
This is a good time to point out that the scientist that he is speaking with is Ralphie from A Christmas Story.
Oh yeah.
Who is also a producer on the movie and is actually just like a legit just Hollywood producer, but
you'll shoot your eye out.
I mean, it's not Jeff Bridges that played him in A Christmas Story, but if he did, that would have been his line delivery.
Jeff Bridges would have been his fucking daddy. Yeah. Anyways,
that's such a superhero trope too, right? Like the hero has to face off against a villain who has basically the same skill sets or powers or abilities that he has.
It's
usually stronger.
I mean, it's not the first time we're going to talk about that trope in our series of episodes on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Let's put it that way. And it's unfortunate. It really is, because too often, it just feels, I don't know. I mean, it just feels like a lack of creativity. I don't hold it too much against Iron Man here, because it's kind of the one that kickstarted it. I do agree absolutely that there is a drop off in the third act. It's kind of the later movies where I'm kind of like, all right, come on, like
let's break out of this mold.
Let's do something a little bit different here. And interestingly enough, so in preparation for this episode, I actually kind of went through a lot of the special features, bonus content available on the Blu-rays, because I kind of wanted to, absorb some more useless knowledge and recite it here on the podcast. But basically, when Favreau and company were kind of, breaking ground on this movie, they did actually initially have the Mandarin as the villain, legit Mandarin. And then they kind of moved away from it because they were just like, well, it doesn't really mesh. You've got a guy with, certainly as probably at this point, they're basing it a lot of on the comic version where it's a guy that has 10 rings that have basically magical powers,
right?
And it's kind of just like, well, it's an interesting, duel of technology versus magic, but it's something that for setting the stage for hopefully things to come, at this point, if Iron Man flops, the MCU's done,
right?
Yeah. Well, sure. Hulk would still come out because it was already in production, but basically it'd be a 2-movie endeavor. It would be a dark universe, if you will. Except those only made it to 1, and then I think they stopped at once, started again. It's probably also going to stop at 1 again. Just stop doing it, Universal. Stop it. Yeah. So like I said, it is interesting, and that they kind of ended up going with something that was, your clone of your hero. And they also considered Crimson Dynamo at one point, who's exactly the same thing. He's just a guy in a suit. So. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't hold it against this movie. I don't hold it against this movie too much, because of kind of what it means in the long run. But I do agree, that
it's an overused trope.
Yeah.
So, Well, I guess we can kind of wind down Iron Man 1.
Favorite moment. What's your favorite moment, man?
Well, I say, so my favorite moment for this is the first time we really see the Mark III in action. Because it's the first time that we see, the properly colored, like, adaptation of that fucking Iron Man suit that, we really saw, like Warren Ellis with Extremis in comics, and Adi Granov's kind of design of Iron Man, and he actually worked on this movie too, to kind of help design the Iron Man suit. Like, we see that fucking translation into real life, and we saw like kind of basically the uncolored version with the Mark II, which is also like really cool looking. But to see that in action, just going to back to Afghanistan in that full Iron Man suit and just absolutely tearing the Ten Rings to shreds, like, it was
pretty awesome.
And
he shoots that fucking rocket that shoots that rocket in that tank thing. Yeah, it's cool.
And I remember seeing that. I think that was in a Super Bowl TV spot, if I recall correctly. I think they had a version of, like an early version of that shot in a Super Bowl TV spot. I just remember seeing that back in the day and just being fucking floored. Shit. Yeah, that was like insane for me. So that was my favorite moment. What do you guys have for your favorite moments?
My favorite moment is when he gets back and refines the suit. That chrome fucking Iron Man suit gets me every time, dude. It's so cool looking. And he shoots out of the garage. He says, sometimes you gotta run before you start walking, Jarvis. And he fucking shoots out of the garage and starts flying. And it was really cool. I like them. I'm a Mark II fella myself. And that's really the point where he starts, that's like the around the time where he starts changing as a character, and he starts finding this newfound passion that he has, and I think it's a really cool spot in the movie. Myself. What about you, Henry? What you like about Iron Man?
Yeah, it's actually the exact scene that I was going to talk about when he is testing the suit, kind of building it slowly, like piece by piece. And then finally gets it all together and just like, you know what? I'm going to take it for a test run. I'm just going to fly out in the middle of like the California sea, like over Malibu, and just like see what this thing can do. And I don't know. I think just seeing the suit like in action for the first time was just like such an incredible moment.
That's pretty cool.
Like exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. All good picks. All very good picks. Last thing I want to talk about for Iron Man before we kind of jump to our next movie, we got to talk about the ending, because there's been good superhero movies in the past, but there's never been a movie that's ended like Iron Man. I am Iron Man. Like, holy shit! Like,
yeah, that was pretty awesome. Yeah,
boom! Literally cut from that to credits
with Black Sabbath.
Stunned. Yeah. Come on. Like, it's such a good ending. It's such a good fucking ending.
And the credit sequence was cool too.
Yeah. Yeah. Our first appearance of Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, and our, their first indication that, big things are on the horizon.
Little did we know what would happen.
Yeah. But, and that was something that they tried to keep super secretive, and then sounded like, they brought Sam Jackson on set for like a day, tried to be super secretive about it, and then it was already in the trades by like the next day. So it didn't work out too well for him on that front. But still, for the people, again, that's another thing that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has really kind of set as the tradition is post credits. Did you guys stay through credits of any movie prior to Marvel movies?
Absolutely not.
I can't think of any now.
And think of how many movies now that we watch, the big blockbuster movies. How many of those really have either mid credits or post credits, something, some sort of little coda kind of at the end to really kind of, put things over the edge. And again, that's just one more thing to kind of add to the, another notch to the belt of Marvel. So, yeah, Iron Man it's a really fucking good foundation for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's a hell of a start, and there's a reason it made as much money as it did, and there's a reason that it kind of made it possible.
Not without its shortcomings.
No, I agree. I mean,
But
it's
it
not a perfect
represents
film.
a whole lot.
Yeah.
But it's a really strong movie, and it's something that, to take kind of a B-list character, take an actor that to that point, obviously had his heyday, but he was well past his heyday kind of when he was cast in that role, to take those kind of elements and to take, a production that was a little bit muddled. They didn't have a completed script when they started filming. There was a lot of improvisation on set. I mean, there's just a lot of elements that anywhere it could have really gone completely sideways, and yet it all fit together so perfectly. I said, I don't mean that it's a perfect film by any stretch of the imagination, but like I said, there's just so much that things could have gone awry very easily, and yet they didn't. And what we got was Iron Man. And for me, rewatching Iron Man a decade on, it holds up to this day. It absolutely holds up to this day for me.
Yeah, I think it's a good film. Without looking at it in context of the MCU and everything else, I think it's just by itself, it's actually a good film.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to the next movie that came out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Actually, this came out pretty much almost a month after Iron Man dropped in 2008. So, of course, we're talking about The Incredible Hulk.
It was a pretty good year to be
June
a
of 2008.
teenager excited about comic books.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this wasn't the first Hulk adaptation, in the same way that, we'd never seen Iron Man on the big screen. We had seen Hulk, really, on the small screen, too.
Personal favorite was Eric Bana's.
Get out. You're fucking done. I'm cutting your line. We're cutting his feet. He's done. Henry, we've got the floor.
All right.
Don't ever say that again. No. The Incredible Hulk. It's interesting because basically, from what I understand, Iron Man was considered the risk going into 2008, whereas the Incredible Hulk was considered the safe bet. And I think that a lot of that was just because we had seen the Hulk. Hulk was an established property that, had been popular with, Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno's TV show with, well, I don't know, it was popular with Ang Lee's Hulk film. But it certainly was it was well known within,
right.
It was a known entity. You kind of, people knew who the Hulk was. The Incredible Hulk is it's an interesting movie. I think for me, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because it honestly doesn't even. It really doesn't feel like part of the universe in some ways.
No, it doesn't.
I don't know if you yeah, I think tonally it just seems odd. I guess part of it too is that its main character is someone that we don't ever see. I mean, we see the character, but we don't see the actor ever again in the universe. But it's
like
a bit of a mixed bag for me.
It's off too. I mean, it's I don't know. A lot of things are absent that's present in the rest of the movies, and a lot of that's probably. I feel like, I mean, Ian, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You're probably going to be much more apt on the production and stuff of this movie, but it just seems like it was like shoehorned into the established framework. You know what I mean? Of what they had planned, because it, like I said, it just tonally it feels completely different than every other MCU movie.
Well, to be fair, the only other MCU movie in production at that point was Iron Man 1. And beyond that, we've had movies that, are certainly a lot more comedic in nature or more serious in nature. So it's not like the MCU, even beyond that, hasn't varied in tone. I think there is a general consistency in style and feel across the board that I don't think this one really kind of adheres to. But given that it was the second film in the MCU, I feel like that's I mean, I think basically we're kind of retrofitting it into this because
I see what you're saying.
This is the least successful MCU movie in terms of box office. It basically, Iron Man set the world on fire, and the Incredible Hulk was just it came, it went. And so I think what you see is a trend in the sense that let's take what worked, capitalize on that,
ride that
move
wave.
forward with that. Exactly. And we'll see a lot of that, especially throughout phase 1, I would say. And so this one, I think I have often described it as the redheaded stepchild of the MCU.
Exactly.
Because it's just ignored. They kind of just cast it aside, and in a lot of ways. Now, there are references to the greater universe. I'm not, discounting that, but it is just something that, I don't know. I mean, you could really skip it. You really could, and I don't think you would ever lose anything of value other than literally one actor that has returned, if I'm not mistaken. Well, I guess two if you count certainly the big cameo at the end, but really, I mean, there's really been one major, actor that was cast for that movie that has since returned to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that still took basically 8 years for that to happen. That's William Hurt as Thunderbolt Ross.
Yeah,
but
most people didn't even realize that he was from the Incredible Hulk. Like,
yeah, I mean, some people think that the Incredible Hulk is a sequel to Ang Lee's Hulk, in which there's nothing that immediately works against that other than the entire cast being different, and that they redid the origin and the first, I guess, the opening credit sequence. But in terms of kind of where the plot takes it, it's really not that far off from where a sequel probably would have been. And I don't know if this is true, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was actually just a reworked script from a sequel that they kind of had, in the can, and they just kind of did something with. That could be completely off base. They could have just kind of said, "Hey, that's a good starting point. Let's use it and make it work for us." But so just to kind of backtrack somewhat, it was written by Zach Penn, who's a notorious scribe as far as comic book movies go. He's done a lot of stuff with the X-Men franchise.
Oh, that explains a lot.
Some good, mostly bad, I think, from what I can recall. I do believe he wrote X-Men 3, The Last Stand.
That was my favorite
which
one.
Speaks for itself. Listen, mate.
damn it, man.
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
Is that the one? Is that the one we saw in theaters?
Yes, we had the running commentary through it, which helped it a lot. Yes, to
I think
elaborate
that's
on
probably
that.
my favorite experience for a comic book movie was probably
we saw it was an employee screening. I wasn't working at the time. I think it was when my brother worked at a theater. I think we were able to kind of go to like a family employee screening, and it was kind of more of a loose environment in the sense that if you had paid to see a movie, certainly you would have been kind of pissed about people shouting at the screen, kind of with their own commentary. But we had some folks in the audience that delivered some absolute gold, and when it's a shitty movie like that, you got to have fun with it somehow, and that made it fucking fun. And like I wish I could replicate that experience, because every time I watch X3, I'm just like, oh no, I like watching the movie by itself. Like, no, I'm reminded how terrible this is. I don't want this.
Anyways, sorry.
Anyways, it was directed by Louis Leterrier, French director who did Clash of the Titans, I believe, and I think he's done the Now You See Me movies since then.
Oh yeah.
So not a strong resume overall. I don't know. It's interesting because I wonder, I think they liked his, when I watched again the kind of bonus content for this movie, and when Feige and company were kind of talking about what they saw in Leterrier when they brought him on board, they really liked his kind of kinetic camera work, his just kind of the general action-y style that he brought to the table.
A lot of that pays off.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the one thing that does work in this movie. There's other things that work too. I think that's the biggest thing that works in this movie for me.
A lot of the framing's
also,
really well done, in my opinion, in this movie.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of watched. They have like I think it's like a 30-minute making of documentary on there, and a lot of the early design that he kind of did his own like sketch work and stuff, and kind of mapped out kind of like visuals that he wanted to see, and I really enjoyed that. I'm like, where the fuck was this in the final cut? More in terms of like story beats. He said action wise, it was definitely on point, but I kind of just felt like, I don't know. It's just very inconsistent for me. I think that's kind of where I struggle with it. I think that it starts off really strongly. I think I really enjoyed kind of Banner on the Run in Brazil. I thought that was
it's cool.
Really, it's a visually interesting setting to put him in an unfamiliar environment. You got a language barrier for him to kind of work against, and it kind of leads to this bottling plant sequence where they kind of treat Hulk as kind of the, a monster that they keep in shadows, which I think was a really smart approach to handle the character. Certainly for first act, you don't want to show your hand too early.
It was a really cool. Metaphorical reference to the character. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You have him in an area that would be incredibly frustrating. Like you said, the language barrier. You have him working a job to where he cannot use his full potential, and essentially you have a bottled up monster working at a bottle plant. It's pretty cool. I don't know. Again, not to get too heavy.
Yeah, it's just that kind of. I think when it kind of when they force him out of there, when he goes on the run, for me the pacing just kind of slows to a halt, especially kind of when it gets to, I guess, Virginia, meets back up with Betty. I don't know. It just it kind of, that second act really kind of just lags for me. And it's a fun sequence on Culver, the Culver University sequence where he's facing off against the military tech, and it does kind of work its way. It works its way back to kind of a punchy, smashy finale. But I don't know. For me, it just there's just too much inconsistency, a lot of ebbs and flows between this is interesting, this is not interesting, this is fun, this is boring. For me, it couldn't find one consistent thing to stick to, and I don't know. It just didn't work for me overall. I mean, what about you guys? What'd you guys feel about it?
I think overall, I like the film. I enjoy it because the action is generally good and well directed and fun to watch. But like you're saying, a lot of those moments where they're just on the run or discussing, it's not the most exciting part. Like, you don't go into a Hulk movie to see him spend most of the movie as Dr. Banner. I think Dr. Banner is an interesting character when he's done right, like in the later movies. But in this, I'm not that interested in Banner. I'm more interested in the Hulk. And so when the Hulk's on screen, I think it's a lot of fun. But a lot of the other times, it's he doesn't even want to be the Hulk, and it's kind of a difficult plot to run.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. I actually have this quote. It's from Mark Ruffalo, who is the current actor for the Hulk. Obviously, he's not Edward Norton, but basically, he said that the tough thing, when you kind of make a Hulk movie, is that it's hard to make a movie about a guy who doesn't want to be there and doesn't want to do the very thing that you want him to do. And I feel like that's pretty encapsulating of kind of what the biggest issue with this movie is that Banner doesn't want to be the Hulk. So he spends the whole movie trying to not be the Hulk. He has a bunch of boring conversations on his laptop about
not being
this plant didn't work. I get it from a character standpoint. It absolutely makes sense. It's just it's not interesting as a film to kind of explore that. Certainly not in the way that it's depicted here. Maybe it could be interesting. I just that's just not the priority here. And so when there is time, I think, kind of spent on that, it feels almost like an afterthought. Like it doesn't feel substantive to me. And kind of how I kind of felt, and I think part of that was the editing. There's a lot of deleted scenes from this movie, and I think a lot of character stuff that was left on the cutting room floor, much to the chagrin of Edward Norton, who played Bruce Banner in this and was very heavily involved in the creative process, wanted the final cut. I think that ended up getting pulled away from him because I think he wanted more of a character-driven piece, and what we got was much more of a lean action movie. And I don't know that either of them it would have worked significantly better than the other. I just think that, the material that was there, it's fine. It's not spectacular. I think they did a good job with what they had on the, to work with. I guess it just kind of depends on what you want to do. And they tried kind of having a big character think piece with Ang Lee's Hulk, and that was a fucking disaster. So I certainly understand kind of the motivation to, flip it in reverse and just completely go the opposite direction with it. But I don't know.
Fun fact. When I get new speakers and I play around with surround sound, first movie I put in is The Incredible Hulk for the scene that we were talking about with the military tech and like the speaker guns and the helicopter and everything else. It is the perfect track to dial in your surround sound system. There's plenty of bass. There's plenty of ambient noise.
Slapping the BS, man.
Absolutely, it's a fantastic.
I'm slapping the BS, man.
That scene is pretty great.
I'm slapping the BS
for speakers. But you know what was cool is I remember watching the Hulk in theaters for the first time and watching the Abomination.
I'm slapping.
watching the Hulk fight the Abomination, and the Hulk's so fucking angry. He's got that chain wrapped around his neck. He's trying to kill him. And when I watched it again here, I was equally pumped up. That last little portion there where he's fighting the Abomination was pretty intense. Specifically, just the portion on the rooftop where he's right on top of him. The rest of that scene is, I think it's kind of junk.
Well, the CGI has not aged well, I wouldn't say. I mean, it's not bad. It's probably still above Steppenwolf tier. But it is a 2008 movie. It's a decade old, so it's hard to kind of give it too much shit for that. I think what I just don't like is that I just really do not like this Hulk design at all.
I was gonna ask you about that. Yeah.
I actually hate this Hulk design. I mean, it's better than Ang Lee Hulk design.
Where is neon? I like the neon green Hulk. I prefer the neon green Hulk.
I just think that, it's, you see a lot of the striations in the muscles. He just looks like a fucking action figure, and I think his face is all sorts of fucked looking. Like, it just... I think part of it is a blend of aged CG, and I just think it's the design that, to me, just does not translate well to live action. Like, it just does not look like a real monster or a real, to me, it just looks immediately fake. I think the way that they designed it for me, I immediately just kind of check out and be like, I can't buy into this. I see what you mean. Like, I see the anger in his face. I see the way that they designed the anger in his face, but I don't feel the emotions in that scene, where he's strangling the shit out of Abomination, I don't know. That's just, that's probably personal preference more than it is anything. And on the same note, I don't really like what they did with Abomination either in terms of design. He kind of just looks like a, brown blob with spikes kind of sticking out, but I don't know. Like I said, personal preference. I mean, you guys obviously may agree or disagree with that.
I didn't like his design that much, especially after seeing the new Hulk design.
I think that's part of it too, is that they've significantly improved it since, and so it's hard to go back and you're like, well, A, it's visually inconsistent, so which again makes it kind of feel very separated, but A, it's just worse, or B, it's just worse.
It's like he's too ripped. Like, I don't know. It's a weird thing to think about for the Hulk as a monster, but like, I don't know, tone it down. Like, and his hair is just not, and he also doesn't look anything like the actor Edward Norton.
Right.
Almost like, how did this guy become this? Which, I mean, in the comics and everything, like, the Hulk doesn't necessarily look like Bruce Banner, but it's nice in the later movies when he does.
Well, it's certainly, at least, especially in this movie, there's a lot of time with Betty kind of trying to, recognize him as Bruce. And when you can't see, and we physically can't see the Bruce Banner in him at all, it's kind of just like, I mean, they are two separate characters, they are, but, there should kind of be some sort of duality that you could at least kind of visually pick up onto. And I think that's kind of lost with the design here. I agree. Yeah. All right, let's see what else here. I thought the humor in this movie was shit. I don't know if that was just me. That whole taxi bit was fucking terrible. I don't like that. That has always never that has never worked for me. I thought Tim Roth as Blonsky CG Abomination was pretty fucking cool. I liked him. Yeah. I thought he was a fun villain.
I like when he got kicked into the tree.
Yeah, that was fucking excellent.
Yeah, damn.
Well, we're jumping ahead. That was actually my favorite moment. His if I had to pick one favorite moment, that brief moment of Blonsky, roided up Blonsky fucking standing kind of toe to toe Hulk for a minute, jumping around, flipping around like an asshole, and then it just kind of is that it? Is that all you got? Boom! And then he gets fucking kicked into the tree. Yeah. Like, just the physics of him just getting absolutely just demolished into that tree. It was a pretty cool moment. Okay, I actually forgot about it until just now. The boxing gloves are pretty fucking cool too. The Hulk boxing gloves out of the car. That's pretty cool. So that's straight out of fucking incredible. You know, it's right out of the video game. What about you guys? Favorite moments?
The scene where the Hulk fights the military.
I guess
that.
You already said that.
Yeah,
because you were slapping the bass on that one.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. The audio is cool, but the framing of him losing it inside that catwalk or whatever, that bridge, was pretty cool. And I think that was like the first real, it was the first time you really get to see him. You know what I mean? So it was a big reveal. That was cool.
Yeah, definitely.
And he kicks ass, you know, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Henry?
What about the scene when Bruce Banner, or I guess, what's his lover's name again? Betty?
Betty.
Hmm?
Betty. Yeah. When Betty and Bruce are trying to have sex, and then he's like, "Whoa, my heart rate's going up. I can't do this. I'm gonna turn to the Hulk and just like, you'll die.
I'll split you in half, bitch."
Literally split her in half. Oh my god.
I was like, yes.
The movie quickly became rated R.
I don't know if that was the comedy they were going for, but just the ridiculousness of it, I thought was incredible.
Yeah.
But my actual favorite's probably when Hulk fights the military again. Close second to the Battle of Harlem in the third act, but yeah, I think Hulk fighting on that campus is probably my favorite overall.
All right. Any last thoughts on it? Incredible Hulk. Anything?
I think one thing I have here is like some of the interesting cameos that you see in this movie, like Lou Ferrigno as that security guard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking Martin Starr pops up too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, when I was rewatching, I was like, oh shit, Martin Starr's also like in this. And then I don't know the actor's name.
Is he Peter's teacher in the future? Is that the same character? Is he? You know, I mean, it's not unrealistic, right? I mean, he could just work at a university and then go teach high school. Why not? Maybe he could just be a student, right?
They have Phil from Modern Family. I forget the actor's name.
Yeah. Ty Burrell.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I guess we should probably count Robert Downey Jr. as a cameo, right?
Yeah, of course, in the post credits. And I think my favorite casting in this entire film is William Hurt.
Yeah, he's great.
Oh, for sure.
Ross.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
He's also ripped straight from the comics, like in terms of his demeanor and like physically with that mustache. Like, he's perfect.
He's an asshole.
I'm glad he comes back later.
He plays a really good asshole.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
and
a good
also
call. Good shout.
I think, I don't know, you all probably know this, but I don't know if everyone else knows how Lou Ferrigno does the voice of this Hulk.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that.
And I think that's my favorite Hulk voice. Like, it's very... I don't know, like,
I think when Ruffalo took over the role, I think that he also took over the voice duties, and I think they modulate it somewhat to Hulkify it, I guess, if you will. But yeah, this was, I think, definitely kind of the last straight up, I think, Ferrigno voice that we heard for the Hulk. Yeah, I do agree. I mean, I'm not gonna do it because I wouldn't be able to do it properly. But yeah, Hulk smashing at the end, pretty good. All right, Andrew, you got anything to add?
No, I'm done talking about the Hulk. That was a pretty rough movie.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll talk about Iron Man 2 then. Released a couple of years later. They had a little bit of a gap and said Iron Man was a rousing success. Well, the obvious move is just to make the sequel, right? So here comes Iron Man 2 in 2010, written by Justin Theroux and directed yet again
Justin
by...
Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister?
It's close, but it is Justin Theroux, who himself is an actor. He's been in a few things. He also wrote Tropic Thunder, which
really?
is a classic. He said directed again by Jon Favreau, and coming back, Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow. Not coming back, Terrence Howard. Replaced by Don Cheadle as James Rhodey Rhodes, War Machine, and introducing quite a few new players actually into the universe. I mean, this is kind of a movie that really is where they definitely started kind of expanding into the wider lore with the introduction of S.H.I.E.L.D., some other characters like Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson coming into the fold, Sam Jackson obviously getting a little bit more of an expanded role as Nick Fury here. And a couple new villains in the form of Sam Rockwell's Justin Hammer and Mickey Rourke's Ivan Vanko. I want my bird. I'm confused. Is it your bird? You said it wasn't your bird. Now you like the bird. You know what? Take the bird. Yeah. Iron Man 2.
I feel like if you sum up this movie, it's just Sam Rockwell.
That sums up the movie for me. There isn't a whole lot.
Or at least what I liked about the movie.
Yeah, that's about all. It's about the movie's kind of rough, man. I mean,
it's a hot mess. It's a hot mess because I think there's a lot in it that's promising. Some of it is good, but it's just so fucking unfocused. Like this thing has way too many things going on. And it has no idea how to tie them all together in a cohesive and compelling manner. It's disappointing. You know, I don't know if I wonder if they kind of felt rushed to get it going after the success of Iron Man might have caught them off guard. Said let's
pump another one out.
We got to do Iron Man 2. Yeah, we got to pump it out. And it sucks is because it wastes a really talented cast.
Yes.
Who actually, I mean, they all give great performances. It's not like they're not doing well. It's just, I feel like they're let down by the material that they're given. I mean, RDJ, he's still fucking RDJ. I mean, he carries the movie as much as he possibly can. And he's not alone in doing it. And I think everyone else is really great too. Sam Rockwell definitely fucking steals the show anytime he's on screen. That guy is fucking magnetic. And those dance moves, oh my God,
yeah.
Unparalleled. Unfucking paralleled. Yeah, it's just it's messy. I mean, let's count the plot threads. I mean, what the fuck's going on in this movie? All right, so it's about legacy, right? That's the whole thing that it begins with, the Stark Expo. The legacy of Howard Stark, his father, that he's left for him. But then it's about the legacy that Anton Vanko left for his son, Ivan Vanko. It's about what else does it have going on?
It's got
in it?
Sam Rockwell.
Tony's dying.
No, it's got Tony dying.
Yeah, okay. You say Sam Rockwell is Justin Hammer is his rival. He's trying to replicate the Iron Man armor. Tony's dying from palladium poisoning. The government wants the Iron Man armor. Yep. Tony and Pepper got the will they won't they things going on. S.H.I.E.L.D. is evaluating Stark for the Avengers initiative. Like there's just too much. There's just fucking too much going on. Like pick two or three. Pick a major thread. Pick one or two subplots. Make it work for you. This is just they wrote all their ideas that they had for the sequel on the list, and instead of kind of paring it down, they just said, "Oh, fuck it, we'll just do it all. Just do it all. It's fine." It's not fine. It's not. It's a. I mean, I enjoy this movie. I mean, I gotta say this movie is incredibly quotable. It's there's a lot of individual scenes in this that are just an absolute fucking joy to watch, but it's just it just jumps so haphazardly between everything that it's just kind of like, what's the point of this movie? Like what is the ultimate point that this movie is trying to convey?
Just a collection of scenes.
It is, and it's something that I don't think that really has a ton of really kind of plot movement in it, there's not, it doesn't have to be a fucking world-ending plot or anything like that, but it just doesn't feel like any characters are really kind of, it feels like the needle is barely moved from beginning to end. I get that we see, I guess, Rhodey become War Machine, which, is cool, but I don't know how much of a character, movement that really is. I'd say probably the most significant thing that we really see happen is Tony and Pepper, going for it, by the end. But again, in the scheme of things, I just kind of find a lot of these kind of developments insignificant, and certainly something, there are things that could have worked in the broader sense of something more compelling. But as kind of the major takeaways for it, it's kind of just, it's underwhelming. It really is underwhelming, I'd say.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. There's a collection of cool scenes, though, and funny scenes. Does have that, like you said. You got the interaction between the senator. I always thought that was pretty funny. And then you've got Scarlett Johansson. She's pretty cool.
One of the coolest. Still one of the coolest.
Still one of the coolest. She's especially cool in this movie, though. Especially cool. Extra cool, for sure. She kicks ass for the first time. You see her kick ass in that hallway. And you have John Favreau,
Johnny Favs. Just go with
Johnny Favs. You got Johnny Favs in there trying to kick ass. He spends half an hour kicking that one dude's ass. And Scarlett Johansson's flipping around heads and sliding and throwing stun grenades and just so cool.
Just kicking ass.
Kicking ass, yeah, man. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You got the fucking briefcase suit, man.
Oh, I do like that scene a whole lot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like I said, there is a lot to like. There is a lot to like in this movie, and like I said, and I think that's kind of why it's disappointing is that it doesn't, it doesn't take. It's just there's a lot of talent that's just kind of there,
squandered.
And I don't want to say that in some ways it's squandered. Like I said, I mean they get a lot of fucking scenes to chew on. It's just they're not stitched together in any sort of meaningful way, and I think that's kind of where it falters for me. It's not a sense of. It's not a Dark Tower thing.
Right. No, it's definitely no Dark Tower.
Here's some talented fucking people and just absolutely give them nothing to work with. I mean, they have fun scenes to work with. It's just the fun scenes don't, don't build serve any broader sense.
Right.
Exactly. So I don't want to call it a bad movie because I enjoy it a lot. I think there's a lot of enjoyable stuff in it, but it's a disappointment. Certainly coming off the first one, it just feels so unfocused. It's a missed opportunity, I think, more than it is a wasted opportunity. I guess it's kind of the same things, but I don't know.
This is not very good. It's not a very good movie. It's a fun movie. It's entertaining.
It's a fun movie. It's a fun movie, but it's not a good movie. But I also wouldn't go as far to say that it's an actively bad movie either. I guess somewhere in the middle. It's just middling. It's just hanging out, with mediocrity. As in the words of the Immortan Joe,
mediocre.
Which is a fucking top tier, excellent goddamn movie. Such a good movie.
Yeah, I don't think the MCU has any what I would say are bad movies.
And I agree with that.
This one's on the weaker side, for sure. It's fun to watch, but it's not that great.
No,
there's movies that are totally fine. I'd say I don't think that the MCU at any point has plunged to the depths
Justice League
of the distinguished competition.
Right.
I don't think that's happened.
Name names, but
I mean, I kind of did. Yeah, I don't know. I wish there was more to this than there ended up being. I mean, he said that there is fun stuff in it. I don't know. It just doesn't have that punch. It doesn't pack the punch that I think that it could have. But yeah, it is what it is. It's early MCU. I think they ended up kind of learning their lessons from it, and so in some ways maybe it was useful in that regard. But I don't know. It's Iron Man 2,
Yeah.
Favorite moments? I feel like I keep starting on this moment, so I'll let you guys.
What's your favorite moment, Henry?
Let's see. One moment that is not my favorite, but again, when I watched it back, I was like, "Oh, that's cool." When Elon Musk is in this film.
Yep.
Yep. That I was just like, "What? Oh shit, that is Elon Musk."
And that's nothing I never picked up. I never realized that at the time that it came out.
I don't think I knew Elon Musk that well.
That's what I'm saying. I don't even know if I knew who he was at the time. I don't. I mean, it's 8 years ago at this point. Yeah. So I really don't know. But it is.
And I was like,
oh
certainly, shit, he's real.
I think Iron Jeff Bezos is in there as well. Man.
Yeah, Amazon guy. Yeah.
Oh yeah. They have a couple.
Yeah, you got all the rich people and stuff in there. It's cool.
Makes sense. mean, for that set piece, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it was pretty neat, and it was pretty good cameos.
You said that is not your favorite moment, I assume.
No, I'm torn between in the third act when Iron Man and War Machine face off against the Iron Legion. Is that what they're called? Or
I think probably the Hammer Drones, probably a little bit more accurate.
Yeah, the Hammer Drones and Ivan as well. His mix. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got kind of a Crimson Dynamo whiplash thing.
Yeah, either that or when he is at the Grand Prix in Monaco and he suits up. But again, both of those scenes kind of left me a little unsatisfied.
They're very short.
Yeah.
I think that. Yeah.
I don't know,
well, I'd say
cool for what they are, but it's not enough.
It's not satisfying. Like you get like, you know, I don't know. I remember seeing. I don't know if it was the first trailer or the second trailer came out. You see, you know, they had that shot in the trailer of, you know, basically Tony and Rhodey back to back in their armors. You know, you see the faceplates drop, and then they start fucking, you know, firing off like crazy amounts of rounds. You see all the drones around. I remember seeing that in the trailer and be like, oh my god, that's going to be the best thing ever. And when I watch it, I'm like, this is the best thing ever. But now, years down the road, I'm kind of just like, it's a fucking cool sequence, don't get me wrong, but it's like, again, as with everything in this movie, it could have been so much more. Like, it just felt like, I don't know, like, could have built on that and made some, like, a really fucking cool sequence. I mean, the whole chase sequence with the drones, I think, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, but it's just not, mind-blowing by any stretch of the imagination. But my favorite moment, I think I kind of narrowed it down. I think it is the Mark V suitcase kind of scene where, I don't know, something about, just the actual visualization of him fucking putting that suit on. You know, I think it's a fun sequence. You know, at Monaco, kind of the first confrontation with Whiplash, and then just him fucking putting that armor on. It's such a cool design for me. I really really like that design. So I'm kind of sad that that was the only time that we ended up seeing it in the movie.
We get no more mobile suit Iron Mans.
Yeah, but and I was looking on the bonus feature. I was hoping they'd have kind of some sort of like featurette or something on kind of how they went into designing that. They didn't mention it at all. I was just kind of like, what the hell is this? But I don't know, Andrew. What do you got? Nothing. You're on protest against this movie?
No, I really enjoy Sam Rockwell. And it's funny because it's an Iron Man movie, right? But the Iron Man stuff really didn't do a whole lot for me in this movie. All my favorite sequences were character beats. Mm-hmm. The Johnny V versus Scarlett Johansson in the Thing, that was that was pretty good. It's pretty funny. Johnny V might be my favorite character.
Who the fuck is Johnny V? Johnny Favs? We talking about Johnny Favs in the boxing ring?
Yeah, I call him Johnny V.
You call Kevin Feige Kev, and you call John Favreau Johnny V.
Johnny V.
Johnny V.
Johnny V. But he steals the shit. Do they do the race in the first one or the second one?
That's in this one.
Yeah, they do the race. They got Johnny V in the ring. They got Johnny V fighting alongside of Scarlett Johansson. You got Johnny V throwing the briefcase, driving the car in the fucking Sidewinder or whatever the fuck his name is. The Whiplash. He's the fucking man. The whole movie. He's cool.
Happy Hogan.
Yeah. Sam Rockwell owns it. To narrow it down to one, it's difficult. I tell you what's good though. The scene where he goes and visits Pepper Potts in the office, and he gets pissed off at the little the perpetual motion machine thing that goes on there, and he shoves that thing in there, and then he dumps all the strawberries out, and then he ends up stealing the the thing,
So I think that he kind of makes
the model, right?
elements out.
Yeah.
And he shoves that shit in his car, and he's driving down the road with the fucking giant ass model sticking out of his car. That was pretty funny. There's a lot of funny moments. I feel like a lot of the humor landed well.
I said, I mean, this is definitely a funny movie, and I think that's why I have a hard time like hating on it too much, because I don't think it's a good movie. It's definitely not a good movie, but I feel like I enjoy it. You know, I laugh at it too much for me to kind of totally toss it aside. That moment you mentioned, the strawberries.
Yeah,
I'd like to mention that not a single strawberry makes it into that fucking bin,
no, he doesn't give a fuck,
which is amazing. And I there's like that was just probably the one take where it was such a ridiculous thing where he just did not make any of them into the trash can. Then I'm just like, that they were probably just like, well, fuck, we got to keep that in there. That's gold, it's too good,
right?
To me, like that could not have been.
It
scripted.
embodies Tony's character. It's good shit. So, like I said, my favorite portions of this movie are pretty much everything that's Tony and not Iron Man. Unlike the first movie where like I don't know. I enjoyed Tony moments, and I enjoyed Hammer moments and Pepper moments and Johnny V moments, but not really any. I just didn't really enjoy Iron Man 2 as an Iron Man movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have no issues with that. I think that's a pretty fair assessment. All right. Any parting words for Iron Man 2? Are you guys ready to get the ball rolling?
Get the ball rolling, man. Get that ball rolling. We're starting to get into good territory here, I think.
Wait, I just remembered a very important plot point and a story that goes along with it.
Very well. Continue.
So you remember the scene where he is basically being babysat by S.H.I.E.L.D. and Coulson, and he has to fix his palladium poisoning problem with the arc reactor? And he builds a particle accelerator in his garage?
Yes. I do remember that.
Do you remember in 11th grade chemistry when I told our teacher that actually happened?
Yeah.
I just want to, in the very small chance that she's listening now, I just want to apologize for misleading her, because I think she actually believed me, and then I didn't have the guts to tell her that it was from a movie.
Well, there's probably a reason that we all struggled a lot with chemistry our freshman year in college. Not to throw shade, but
yeah.
All right,
but at least better on that exam.
At least we got to watch fucking Wind, yo.
Oh, we watched Wind 1 or 2 times.
We haven't finished it. We got to finish it today.
Should do an episode on Wind.
What the fuck is Wind, guys?
It's a stellar documentary. We watched it at least 10 times in class.
Oh god.
All right.
Okay, that's enough.
Shall we move on?
Yeah.
All right. Next up, Thor. Released in May of 2011, written by Ashley Edward Miller, Zach Stentz, and Don Payne, and directed by the king of Dutch angles himself, Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah. Do you think he had a mustache when he directed this movie?
I don't know. Was he? I mean, he was prepping for that Poirot role.
I feel like that dude should always have a goddamn mustache. He goes everywhere with that mustache.
Maybe he was Gilderoy Lockhart while he was filming.
I feel
I'm just naming Kenneth Branagh
that Thor, from Thor on, shit starts to ramp up in a big way.
Agreed.
I feel like this is they've tried a couple of different things. They tried the humor with Iron Man 2. They tried whatever the fuck was going on in Hulk, and then they did, and then they got the what the fuck origin story in Iron Man, right? And I think that Thor is the first movie where this concoction of these different cinematic elements kind of gets blended together in a way to where you have a stellar cast. all good performances, and it starts to ramp up in a big way. And they've really refined the creative process in a way to where they can make a really good movie and still make a really awesome superhero movie at the same time. I think it's cool. Also, does this one? I guess he fights at Asgardian, so I guess it's almost the, fighting the same kind of thing trope.
An Asgard?
Well, he has.
But he also fights a giant robot.
Get the Destroyer. Right. The Destroyer is a pretty big threat. To be fair, it gets dispatched pretty quickly too.
And at the same time, Loki is very different than Thor, right? So I don't know. I feel like the tropes are a little bit more abstract.
Plus, we get some fight scenes with frost giants and Jotunheim. There's a variety.
A lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of variety. It does. I guess if you want to boil it down to it, it does come down to Asgardian versus Asgardian, or does it? I mean, I guess it's Asgardian versus a Jotun, right?
Yeah.
Good point.
So, I mean, or half Jotun, I guess, probably.
And speaking of 3 characters that own the fucking role, right? 3 characters that I feel like brand, or three actors that brand the character. You know what I'm saying? Like, who else is going to play Thor?
Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah.
He auditioned for
He
it.
can't play fucking Thor.
He fucking auditioned for it. There's tape on the internet.
Did he really?
We should link that up.
Yeah. It's
incredible.
It's interesting to watch, and I'm like, oh boy, that wouldn't have worked at all.
Yeah, it worked out in a really good way, though. Apparently, it's cool.
Oh yeah, no, the way it worked out was great.
Anthony Hopkins, goddamn. Who else could play Odin?
Thor, Odin's son, for your arrogance and stupidity, I cast you out.
Natalie Portman's pretty cool.
Yeah, she's pretty cool.
I like Natalie Portman, but I don't love her in this.
You don't love her in this?
I think she's fine in this. I think she's fine in this.
She's not given a lot of shit, really. She's not given a big role. I mean, she's given a role, but I mean, it's
she's given a better role than in the next Thor movie.
Yeah.
Jumping ahead,
that is. Yeah. No, I think I agree with both of you. I guess I think she's good, but their role could have been better, and I think kind of what my issue with this movie is that for me it shines when it focuses on kind of the otherworldly aspects, and then when it kind of brings it to boring old Earth, boring old Midgard, it kind of I don't know, it just feels like, again, it just, I get it in the sense that it's still early days. You don't want to get too kind of overzealous with how you build your world. But I enjoyed seeing it expand the universe in such kind of really crazy ways. And then,
absolutely,
when it takes it back to a, set on New Mexico, that's supposed to be this tiny little town. It's just, to me, it just kind of feels like, it's not exciting. I mean, the only thing that I did enjoy about that, and I know when I rewatched it again for this, I laughed my ass off, is that they did a really good fun scenes with Thor being a fish out of water, kind of playing on that comedy. This drink, I like it. Another,
smash.
Like there's a lot of really fun interactions between Thor, Jane, Selvig, and Darcy that I do really enjoy. But I to me, the film gets bogged down by all the stuff with Midgard.
This mortal form, it needs sustenance.
Yeah. We drank, we fought, he made his ancestors proud.
This is a very quotable movie as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I enjoy the scenes. I just think that in the scheme of things, I enjoyed, and I think because what we saw with Asgard, the design of Asgard, the design of Jotunheim, and those scenes that we saw on that, it starts with, Thor coming on Earth, getting hit with the van, and then it goes back for probably 20, 25 minutes or so, and I'm like, I'm really, really liking this. I really like this. And then it goes back to that, and it's fine. It's not bad. It's just, I was like, I want more of that. I want more of the other thing. And maybe that's personal preference. I guess it's all subjective, really. But I just kind of found that the Asgard stuff was much more interesting to me than the Midgard stuff was. And not that the Midgard stuff, again, it wasn't bad. I think that everyone was good in it. Like I said, the fish out of water stuff definitely played very well. But I just found that, like, even just like the storming of like the shield compound around Mjolnir, I don't know. It just, to me, I don't know. The action.
One of those movies.
Oh, you're
where
big.
He's not Thor for most of the movie.
Yeah, it just kind of like I enjoy Thor going to fucking town in Jotunheim like that. I dug that a lot. I thought that was a lot of fun, and then just him just kind of going one-on-one with a couple of Shield agents just felt to me like for a second act kind of action sequence, this is fucking all sorts of lame,
Well, it's pulled out of that framework of the original Iron Man, that sort of growth that growth framework that they have for people who discover themselves.
Because it's a reversal of it. I mean, he's got his power taken away from him, so I get it in the context of things. But Iron Man, there's a natural progression from Mark 1 to 2 to 3. This we see Thor at full power, close to it,
and then it's pulled away.
Then we see Thor without power, and then we see him, with the power restored. In terms of the trajectory for a story, I understand.
And characterization, right.
No, and I think that's absolutely fair, and I think that's what I enjoy about this movie is that there's a lot of heart to it. I think that his development is probably accelerated a bit too much, but it's a 2-hour movie. That's just kind of, sometimes that's just the nature of the beast in the sense that you got to really kind of keep things moving.
And you have Odin crying in his sleep.
Yeah, it's very sad. What kind of doesn't really totally work for me. I kind of, I don't know. You say Thor basically goes from being, kind of the brutish, dummy that he is in kind of the Norse mythology, to kind of redeeming himself and becoming, worthy of Mjolnir. And he also falls in love, quote unquote, with Jane Foster in a span of what I would estimate is about 2 weeks.
Hey,
to
man.
me, that just
Love's one of those things, okay? You can't put a fucking time on that shit, okay?
I mean, if Thor Ragnarok is any indication, you probably can. But to me, it just, I said, it's one of those things that, it's a tough line to straddle, and we'll talk about it with our next movie that we get into. If you have it set for too long of a time period, then you also run into other issues. If you set it for too short of a time period, then it's just like, well, does it feel earned? I was like, I bought into it. Don't get me wrong. I just kind of one of those things. I was just like, I can buy Thor being redeemed and kind of realizing the error of his ways because he fucked up in a big way. I just kind of thought that the stuff, the romantic stuff for me kind of just felt, eh.
And I think a lot of that, they didn't kind of dwell, they didn't really let that stuff simmer. It was, I see what you're saying. It's a valid argument,
Yeah, I think maybe just wasn't enough on-scene stuff to make it work. Because there's no doubt that fucking Hemsworth and Portman had some chemistry in this one for sure. I mean, the fucking scene where he kisses her hand and she's like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, that was a legit moment where I'm like, I wonder if that was even a scripted moment, the way that was performed. So, I don't know. She looked pretty pleased anyway.
Yeah, it's not my favorite romance in the MCU.
No.
Now we're gonna get into the best romances here.
Yeah.
The next movie.
But what should have been the best romance? I don't know. It changes like a lot of everything. But like, clearly the most badass female character in this film is Lady Sif.
Obviously.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like,
there's no question about that.
Like, the fact that she's not included that much in later films is upsetting to me.
Well, it could be for the better in the scheme of things. We'll talk about it in a couple episodes. But in the scheme of things, perhaps Jimmy Alexander getting a nice gig on NBC on Blind Spot may have worked out for the best for Lady Sif.
I haven't checked that out.
That's the one where she has all the tattoos?
Yeah, she's tatted up, bro.
She's pretty cool.
Yeah, she's a neat character, I would say. Quite neat.
You know, Lady Sif was great.
I digress. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
They're all cool, man. They're all cool.
Well, it's Hollywood. You usually cast attractive people to appear in your movies. That's usually a good way to get people interested in things. It works. It's not a specifically female thing. Look at all the fucking Chris's. That's all I'm gonna say. All right.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, Hemsworth's like fucking like he actually looks like a Norse god in this film. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Plus they give him at least one shirtless scene per movie. Just. I mean, there's no real plot reasons for it. I mean, we know why it's there.
The worst part about this movie, in my personal opinion,
Okay.
his eyebrows are dyed.
You and the fucking eyebrows. I knew this would come up.
The eyebrows, dude. I
This
mean,
motherfucker has an issue with eyebrows.
I do. Listen, eyebrows define our facial features, right? And when they blend in with everything else, it makes it that it can't relate to you. You look like a clone, or whatever. I don't know, but something's not right when your eyebrows are that blonde. It's just not natural. So I found that slightly distracting because it's every time I saw Hemsworth, I happen to see his eyebrows.
It's definitely his worst MCU look. I will grant you that. Because they dyed his beard too. Like he's just blonde all over.
He's all blonde.
He's very blonde. No, that's a fair criticism. I mean, it's one of those things. You know, you try to keep it as close to the comic book page as you can. Sometimes it's better to just kind of keep it real instead of going for what works on the page. Sometimes it doesn't exactly translate like that. I mean, I guess if you found a fucking guy that had super blonde eyebrows, then maybe it'd look better, but I don't know. Let's see what else is going on with the world of Thor. Have we talked about Loki?
I was gonna say we need to talk about Loki.
We got to talk about Loki. Loki is fucking excellent. Well, I guess Andrew, you kind of mentioned that there's a lot of actors that really embody their roles. For me, Tom Hiddleston, I think, is the best performer in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Nails it.
Like, he is so freaking good as Loki. He just sells everything. Whether it's the dramatic moments to even just kind of being a little bit more playful, the god of mischief. I don't know. I mean, his performance for me, like I said, it stands out amongst a cast that is really strong across the board. I mean, Hemsworth, I think, is great as Thor. Anthony Hopkins is Anthony Hopkins. And, that speaks for itself. Across the board, I mean, I'd say generally pretty good. The Earth cast, I think they're good for what they're written for. Natalie Portman, Stellan Skarsgård, Kat Dennings.
Is Kat Dennings that
Mew Mew?
Mew Mew?
Mew Mew, yeah, she's
she was pretty great. I enjoyed her. She's a lot of fun.
So I think Loki's a standout for me. Henry, did you want to talk about that too?
Yeah, no, Loki. I mean, I think to this day not just for this film, but obviously for the film we'll talk about later, the Avengers. But he's probably the best villain in the MCU.
Certainly, as far as the movies go.
He's just so fleshed out, and he's got such a great backstory that you find out about in this film, and then Tom Hiddleston just sells everything, and he's so great because he's not purely evil. Like, he has his own motivations. Like in this film, he wants to be recognized as another son of Odin, but not just in Thor's shadow.
Right.
He wants Odin even sells it. He's like, oh, you're both my son, but only one of you can be king, but you're both born to be kings. And it's like, how do you not expect your sons to fight over that and create conflict?
Right.
So he's obviously very bitter about being second to Thor every time, and then he finds out he's not actually Odin's son, and that creates more bitterness. And he's like, oh, this is why you didn't want me on the throne of Asgard. And now that makes him want the throne even more, just to prove that he's worthy of it and make his... He's got an interesting relationship with his dad, because it seems like he wants to make him proud, but he also has a lot of hate and disdain for him. So he's just such a complex character. I love Loki so much.
Yeah, well, and certainly to this point in the MCU, I mean, he's a far cry from the villains that have come before him. I mean, I guess doing a tally, Obadiah Stane, solid, not amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you say Abomination, again, fine,
in
enjoyable presence, but not much substance there. Whiplash. So yeah, you come to Loki, and I agree, a very, very complex character. Just a ton really to explore with him, and they do explore that, and that's, I think, kind of the difference between him and what it came before, is that they recognized what was there and they fucking went for it. So, I can't disagree there. I think is that for me, Hiddleston just really stood out amongst his peers, amongst a set of great peers. I also really enjoyed Patrick Doyle's score in this movie. I don't think we've talked about score for any of the movies up to this point.
That's true.
But I really fucking liked Patrick Doyle's score. I think he did an excellent job with kind of imparting kind of the regal, royal nature. When we see Asgard, the very beginning when Thor is meant to be, become king. And just kind of a lot of the swells throughout the movie, especially the fucking end of the movie, really fucking got me. Heimdall says, she searches for you. Like,
yeah,
just
pretty good.
That in tandem with the score.
Yeah, Idris Elba, dude.
Oh yeah, how can we forget about Idris Elba?
He's fucking cool.
He is cool. Yeah, I mean, he's great. I mean, he doesn't do a ton in this movie. He's kind of. He's not flat. His character.
He's the watcher on the wall, man. I mean,
he plays a badass character, a badass looking design, but in terms of kind of what he gets to work with this movie,
and he breaks out of the ice at the end.
That's true. That is pretty fucking badass. I lied. He gets the fucking amazing line of, you are my king. You are sworn to obey me. Yes. He says, and he's like, whatever fucking Loki says, then I need no longer obey you, and just fucking swings that sword. Like, that was a fucking cool ass moment for Heimdall. I love that.
Oh yeah, cool stuff. And he's got those cool eyes too. He's cool. He's a cool dude.
Does he have the Soul Stone though?
Does he?
I don't know. It's probably on Wakanda.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, probably.
Gotta rip out his fucking eyeballs. That'd be awful. Either way, I'm sorry.
Damn.
Anyways.
Favorite moment?
Definitely in the first act in Jotunheim. Thor just unleashing his full God of Thunder power.
Calls the fucking lightning from the sky.
Yeah, I mean, we don't see that for a long time after that. And, like,
right.
Just starting off with Thor, like, in his full power, just being super arrogant and fighting all the frost giants. Like, it's incredible.
Andrew?
I don't know, man. Favorite moment would probably be... I would agree. I'd agree with Henry. I think we're like 3 for 3 at this point. That was... Actually, no, we're not 3 for 3. I don't know what we are. But we've agreed on a lot of them. I agree on this one.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to point out, this is the 4th movie, so...
I think we're 3 for 4. Okay, 3 for 4. You fuckers. I don't know how to count, and I know him as Johnny V. You fucks. All right.
Yeah, I thought Johnny V did a really good job with Thor. He didn't even direct it. What are you talking about? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Johnny V was really good, though. My favorite moment was, I think, Henry, you might have kind of briefly touched on it. It's where Loki confronts Odin. He picks up the casket of ancient winners. You see him very briefly turn blue, the frost giant shaded blue, and he confronts Odin about kind of his parentage, why Odin took him, and it just there's this fucking emotional moment. Tell me, it's so Hiddleston, like, right there is so brilliant that
it's good.
For me, that to me. I mean, honestly, like even for compared to anything in the MCU prior to that point, like I don't think anything is really kind of imbued with that sort of emotion.
No.
Like I and again, that's not to discount anything that came before it. I think it's not reflective of Thor as a whole, but just that one particular scene is just fucking really beautiful. It's a really beautifully done scene, really well acted scene, and you get fucking Tom Hiddleston and Anthony Hopkins to play together in a scene. It shouldn't be surprising, I guess. I mean, I guess maybe it was at the time because I know I didn't know who Tom Hiddleston was at the time.
No.
But certainly since then, we've become kind of a bit more familiar with his work. But yeah,
I'd like to point out
me.
two things that just came to mind. I don't mean to bounce around.
Please proceed, Governor.
The Anthony Hopkins comes in from the Rainbow Road on that fucking horse with his staff.
Oh, yeah.
It's fucking Sleipnir, man.
Just fucking commands attention. Boom! You'll stop your fighting, you bitches. I'm fucking Odin. That was cool. And then, I just lost it because it was just so magnificent. I'd like to point out too that we don't get another scene like that. That is just because that was a beautifully composed scene. You know what I mean? It was awesome. We don't get anything until Ragnarok with the Valkyries flying in on the Pegasi.
I think Branagh has very strong visual sensibilities for composing a lot of his shots. I mean, he's got a very Shakespearean background as kind of what he, was known for prior to Thor, and I think he definitely brought a lot of those qualities into Thor, which I think, made for certain compositions, certain shots really kind of shine kind of the way that you're talking about.
Yeah, the way that, I mean, the lighting and everything, and it was awesome. It was really cool. And I forgot what my second point was, but that was definitely very cool. It was an awesome end to that sequence. Oh, my second point, I remember it now. Inconsistencies. Thor flew across Jotunheim with his hammer, right? Mm-hmm. Super fast.
Okay, sure.
But everywhere in Asgard, they ride around on horses. Why you right? I don't understand why
he doesn't want to leave his friends in the dust. They can't fucking fly.
I guess you're right. Okay, fair enough. I just thought it was kind of cheesy when they're riding down the thing on three horses. I thought it was kind of I don't know. Just didn't. I don't know. Didn't settle well with me. I know it was kind of jarring. I noticed that, but I also noticed eyebrows. So it's the small things.
Fair enough.
On that note,
I'm I think I'm 4 beers in, but then again I can't count, so I'm starting to get a little. It's a bonus episode.
It could be 12. Who fucking knows?
You're 5 for 4.
Yeah, when he means 4 beers, he means 4 6-packs of beer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one thing that we haven't covered too much is Shield and Agent Coulson.
Yeah, that's yeah.
He's been the only
constant through Nick 3 or 4
Fury
movies.
Links, I guess 2 movies, but Coulson links he's not in the Incredible Hulk, but he's Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, and Thor up to this point. Yeah,
and he gets probably his best role in Thor. I mean, certainly a little bit more focus.
First appearance of Hawkeye.
Indeed.
Yeah,
Jeremy Renner. Ratface Renner.
Jeremy.
Jeremy? What a Jeremy guy.
Johnny V and Jeremy. Fucking.
I mean, it was a fun cameo. Definitely a bit of a nothing cameo, but
yeah,
one of those that early MCU. I kind of respect them for trying to kind of build a little bit. I mean, certainly Black Widow got more of a substantive role in Iron Man 2. Hawkeye kind of got the short end of the stick. Which, to be fair, Hawkeye really gets the short end of the stick basically through the entirety of Phase 1. But
he does kick some serious ass in the Avengers. He's got that.
Yeah, we'll get there.
There's some moments.
Yeah. We'll get there. I agree. Respect for fucking Phil Coulson.
Yeah.
All right, you guys ready for Captain America?
Captain America, the First Avenger.
Oh, yeah. Also released in 2011. A few months later, July of 2011. I remember this because I worked at a movie theater. I guess technically I worked at a movie theater since
Thor.
Iron Man 2.
Yeah, I was gonna say I remember going to see Thor with you.
But I worked at a couple movie theaters kind of throughout my movie theater days. So Iron Man 2 was high school era, and then Thor and Captain America I distinctly remember kind of... I think I worked opening weekend. For whatever reason, it was split across the two theaters in town. So I think I ended up helping out on opening weekend for these guys, and then I obviously saw it over there. So good memories, I'd say for both these movies. But Captain America, to specifically talk about the movie itself, I really like Captain America. I think this is a really fucking fun movie.
It is. I agree. I really like Hugo Weaving.
Arrogance is not a uniquely American trait, but I must say you do it better than anyone.
Hugo Weaving's cool. I like him.
Yeah, Hugo Weaving's fucking great.
Matrix,
Matrix, V for Vendetta. Hugo Weaving's fucking talented. He's a talented actor, that's for sure.
Yeah, he is. I even like Red Skull's design. I don't think he's the most compelling villain. Definitely not by a long shot. But
No.
I think for the set piece of this movie, I think he fits well.
I agree with that. I think, Red Skull is cool because he's visually interesting. And even when he's not, the quote-unquote Red Skull, even when it's just Hugo Weaving with his face, his Hugo Weaving face, he's got a good presence, It's fucking Hugo Weaving.
Yeah.
So, he sells it. But I do agree that I just love the feel of this movie. Mm-hmm. Like, this movie just sells the shit out of just a pulpy, throwback to World War II, Indiana Jones-esque in some ways, and not surprising. The director, Joe Johnston, he was a Lucas kind of protege. I don't know about protege, I guess, but he was a special effects guru, and he worked on the production for Star Wars for Lucas, and then he went on to work with Spielberg on Raiders of the Lost Ark. He's got a really strong pedigree. He did he did The Rocketeer.
Fuck yeah, I haven't seen
90s.
that forever. Yeah.
Yeah, which was a really, really, visually interesting period piece. So definitely a strong guy to kind of hire for the job. And it's written by, I do want to shout these guys out because they've done fucking excellent work. Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. These guys have written every Captain America movie, 1, 2, and 3. And obviously we'll talk more about other Captain America movies as we go forward with these series of podcasts that we're going to be doing. But a lot of credit is owed to them for really knocking it out of the park in terms of the writing. But to kind of get back to what I was saying, in terms of the setting, in terms of kind of what Joe Johnston brings to the table, it's a really fun period setting. It's not your grandpappy's World War II by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a fun kind of spin on the setting. The technology is heightened with, the Hydra kind of using the Tesseract technology to kind of amplify their arsenal. And I don't know. For me, this is just a really, really fun movie. And it's a really heartfelt movie too, I think, in terms of the characterization of Steve Rogers.
Yeah, he sells
I like this movie a lot.
You got some great performances. Some of these actors probably play my favorite roles in the entire MCU, like Chris Evans as Captain America. I honestly didn't like Captain America before I saw this movie. I don't know. I hadn't read some of the comic arcs that I enjoy now, but he never appealed to me that much as a character. He seemed like a Superman with his idealism, but without Superman's powers, and he had a shield as his main weapon. But Chris Evans just sold this character so well for me. His sincerity and his just will to want to contribute and do his part in the war, not because he wants to, as they say, kill some Nazis, but just because he's against bullies, because he was such a tiny little scrawny guy that he knows what it's like to be like on the bottom.
Yeah, no.
Do you think this letter on my head stands for France?
That's not the arcs that I was talking about, but it's
no, I agree. Chris Evans, and you know,
let me tell you
it's a
something. I don't want to cut you off, but I'm going to cut you off. Okay, they put a little scrawny.
think
dude
this
in
letter?
They put the little scrawny dude in the vac chamber or whatever the fuck you want to call it, and he comes out ripped as fuck, and what's her face just touches his pec.
She's all about it. She's like, I cannot help myself in this moment. I'm a super
spy, but I can't hold
was that
back.
scripted or was that like
again,
that's a great moment.
that to me feels like a moment where Haley Atwell just could not fucking help herself in that moment, and I hold nothing against her. I would not help myself in that moment because Chris Evans got fucking ripped for this role.
Yeah,
holy shit, he ate so many chicken
swole.
breasts.
Dude is swole.
Yeah.
And then the blonde chick, fuck,
Natalie Dormer.
Marjorie.
yeah,
Tyrell.
she's pretty cool, and she can't hold back. I mean, he gets swole, and all the chicks they all flock to Captain America, and it's really, I mean, it's just really cool. And then he's stuck getting in tights and fucking singing songs and dancing, I really enjoyed all of this movie except the little. It's like they made him. I don't know what's the best way to put it. What's the best way to put it? The third act of the movie was
Montage shell.
Yeah, it was montage. That's the best way to put it. Montage of just like, I'm Captain America. Take a still of me in this picture. Boom. You know, and it was just really shit. And it's just really shit. It dropped off in a big way because up until that point, it was a really awesome movie. Really awesome. I think it was very believable. Him and Bucky, you know, and the dude with the bowling hat, what's his name?
Dum Dum Dugan, man.
Dum Dum Dugan. Yeah, Dum Dum Dugan was good, you know. It was
Peggy. I mean, like
fucking Peggy, yes. Fucking Peggy,
Carter.
dude. Yes.
Fucking Peggy.
Haley Atwell.
Oh, dude, and he chases that Nazi down through the streets.
Yeah, with his brand new like powers.
Yeah, fucking barefoot.
He fucking chased Thor and Oakenshield down.
Yeah.
Goddamn.
It was cool, man. It was really good. It was really good. And you got Tony Stark.
He was a little taller in this movie though.
Got a little Howard Stark action, you know?
Yeah.
He was cool. He's trying to pick up Peggy, and Peggy says, "Fuck you, I touched his pec. I ain't got no interest in you." You know? It was I really liked scrawny Chris, man. He was I don't know, he felt very wholesome. You know, like you said, Superman qualities without the powers.
You just want to root for him.
Right. And throughout the entire movie, he's just I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, it was really fucking good. Really good. Until Montage Hell. It fell off pretty hard. I also enjoyed how in the beginning the technology that they're I think it's really cool that they took the cube or the Tesseract, I guess, and
It's a cube.
It is a cube, you know, but it's more than a cube, man. Okay,
it's a cosmic cube.
Tesseract's 4-dimensional.
Exactly. It's so much more. But it was regarded to the monks or whatever, you know, as some sort of holy artifact. And it was explored by, you know, Hitler wanted it or whatever. You know, it's cool shit. It was I don't know, that whole aspect of the whole, you know, just it I don't know, had a vibe. And they regarded it as a holy artifact, and then they wanted to, and then it's technology that they just didn't recognize as technology. You know what I mean? I thought that was kind of a cool spin, a callback to Thor. And
especially when you see fucking Yggdrasil on like the actual wall in Norway.
Yes, yeah,
right
and
in the
then
beginning.
they pull it out of Yggdrasil. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's cool. And I feel like between Thor and Captain America, this universe is really starting to mesh in a big way. And I don't know. Like I said, we're starting to get a really fleshed out feel for the intricacies that they're playing with. And like I said, that's not only it, because Captain America is just a really fun, believable. Yeah, I feel like he's a believable character. I don't know. Not to go on a rant. I've ranted a little bit. Like I said, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 beers in. So I don't know.
That's quite the range there.
I got my counting from Trump. He knows how to count.
I'm gonna go ahead and piggyback off of kind of what both of you guys have kind of talked about. To begin with, Chris Evans is fucking excellent. And it's surprising because prior to really Captain America, I think the biggest exposure certainly I had, probably for you guys as well, Johnny Storm. The Human Torch and the Fantastic Four.
Okay.
Which he was good in, but Captain America that is not. And it was kind of a weird thing where I'm just like, I see him as this guy, not another teen movie. He's he's kind of boxed into that kind of role, and you're just like, Steve Rogers is gonna be Captain America. I'm not gonna buy it. I fucking bought Chris Evans, and I mean he's so good in this role. I mean he was great in First Avenger, but just kind of moving beyond that, I mean everything he's done with the Captain America role has been absolutely phenomenal, and I can't say enough about the casting crew over at Marvel. I don't know if it's a single individual that it boils down to, whoever it is. I mean, they have just consistently knocked it out of the park, and Chris Evans is just another example of that. So that is kind of where I wanted to start, is that, full recognition of Chris Evans for being incredible. But in terms of the movie itself, in terms of the plot and everything like that, Steve Rogers is he's the fucking best. He's just the fucking best, isn't he?
Yeah. That's the point, right? Like Captain America's supposed to be the best.
But the way that he's depicted, it's not just, it doesn't just tell you that, he's the fucking best. It shows you, that Steve Rogers is, just the best person, that really.
He's everything we all strive to be.
He's what Captain America ought to be too, So it's not just, the best of us. It's really just, he feels like
he's a Superman.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he and without kind of feeling hokey. It doesn't. I believe that this is Steve Rogers. And Stanley Tucci, Abraham Erskine is wonderful in this movie too, and Erskine and Rogers get a lot of really wonderful kind of scenes together in that first act. A good man knows the value of strength.
Yeah,
he knows compassion. Just those scenes between those two are just really, really beautiful and really touching. You promised me, not just a good soldier, but a good man.
It's good.
It's really fucking good. It's really fucking good. And this movie for me kind of takes it in a way that it nails that characterization for its main character, but it also really hits its stride with its supporting characters too. I mean, Red Skull is a fun villain presence. I don't know that he's the most well developed. I mean, he's kind of just he kind of breaks away even really from the Nazi ideology in terms of just general
he's selfish,
Nazi ideology.
Right? Yeah,
he's about Hydra. He's about what he's got his own missions. That separate himself.
He just found a niche to excel. You know what I mean? If he settled into a role.
But moreover, Bucky. I think Bucky is a really good side character here. I think that Chris Evans and Sebastian Stan have believable chemistry that I bought into them being really, best friends. And I wish that we got a little bit more to explore with them kind of working together. I think the kind of downside of the montage hell, and I get what they were going for. I think kind of what they've kind of explained is that, we wanted to, they said that they wanted to leave, kind of a time gap in some ways where Captain America and the Howling Commandos are operating for maybe, a good amount of time before they actually capture Zola, before they confront the Red Skull, because otherwise it would kind of run into the Thor thing of, okay, so they won World War II in 2 weeks. Okay. So you don't want to run into that issue, but the issue that you run into is that it seems like there's so much development that you were kind of leaving on the table. Like, I want to see all those fucking missions. I don't want to see a goddamn montage of Captain America looking cool.
Yeah, just focus on this one story arc. It's one of those things where I honestly think that, I don't know, it's tough. At least that I understand what they're going for, and it made for some cool shots and all that. But honestly, I wonder if just 2 months later title card, and then you have like a really just expanded third act that is just very heavily focused on just one particular mission. I don't know. I mean, does that accomplish the same thing while still accomplishing the time jump? Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, I don't get paid the big bucks to fucking do these movies for a reason, but it is one of those things for me that kind of just feels we're just left with a collection of screenshots from like one-off things. I don't know. It's kind of lame.
I don't know. And it's, I think part of it also too is that the first two acts are just they're fucking amazing. Like, they do just such a really wonderful job of establishing Steve, of establishing his character, of establishing his relationship with Peggy, of establishing what he's trying to accomplish in his life, through serving in the army. Everything with the USO is a ton of fun. Star Spangled Man is a super catchy song. Like, the first two acts for me are just,
they're so great.
If they had maintained that level of quality, I have no doubt that this would be, to this day, a decade on, one of the best movies in the MCU. It's just the third act. It's kind of just like they didn't know quite where to take it. And it's not that the third act is just, it's not bad. It's just, again, it's just kind of just like, it doesn't stick the landing. And I feel like my personal philosophy with movies is, you can get away with having a weaker first act if you can stick the third act. If you can stick the landing in the third act, your Rogue Ones is probably kind of the prime example of, it's fine for the first couple acts, but holy shit, that third act, it fucking kicks in.
Yeah, they nailed it.
Absolutely kicks your ass. Like, it is so good that it makes you forget about what you saw for the first hour and a half, because you're just so overwhelmed by everything that came in that second, or I guess that third act, that you're just like, that might be the best thing I've ever seen. Yeah, it's not. As a body of work, it's not. But you walk out of that theater, you walk away just with that last impression that you get, and Captain America kind of squanders what it builds by not capitalizing on the really what it kind of crafted for the first couple bits. So that's disappointing for me. But again, I don't want to back on it too much. It's good. It's just not as good as what it was. It just kind of feels like, in some ways, a cop-out. In some ways, just kind of just felt like they didn't really know how to effectively craft the narrative in a way that they could hit on the emotional beats that they wanted to hit on, with Bucky, being lost to the wilderness, presumed dead. He's not. Spoilers. He's not dead.
What?
I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's a bit of a missed opportunity, I guess. So, I don't know. I feel like I've been rambling on for quite a while, monologuing over here. So, to summarize, I would like to say that Alan Silvestri's score here is also great. Yes. Captain America's theme, the theme that we get with the credits at the end is fucking wonderful. Like I said, Star Spangled Man also is just super catchy. I think he collaborated on that with I think it was like an old timey kind of writer songwriter, and what else? The fucking ending. I kind of like the bookends in this movie. The bookends with this movie with they find Cap in the ice, and then he goes to Times Square and meets up with Nick Fury, and just I had a date. Like, to me, that is just it's up there with the same thing with Thor. Like, this movie's ended on a fucking high note. It's scene by scene. As a third act as a whole, not necessarily, but as an actual final scene, like, they really hit a good note with kind of how they ended, and to that end with kind of how this movie Captain America ended. I think that one of you guys said it. The best relationship that we saw in Phase 1 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is between Steve Rogers and Peggy Carter.
Yeah,
because fucking Peggy is excellent. Like, to me, she just feels like kind of one of the most well realized female characters, I think I would say, in Phase 1. Pepper Potts I think is good. Natalie Portman's Jane Foster is fine. I think she's fine. I would go with fine. I wouldn't go with good. I would go with fine. Did I skip? It's probably Hulk. Yeah, Betty Ross.
Betty.
She's nothing for me.
She doesn't like taxi drivers.
She doesn't like taxi drivers. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a big Liv Tyler fan, I guess, but I just kind of felt like that relationship there did nothing for me. I didn't feel any sparks flying between Ed Norton and Liv Tyler. Let's put it that way.
You also got no peck touching either. Peck touching, dude.
And there's no peck touching. I mean, peck touching is
it's a whole nother
part
level.
of the key, or peck admiring, because in Thor,
Gawking, is that what you're saying?
Hemsworth's got that going on. I mean, Darcy comments on it, but we know that Jane's like,
it's all about them pecs.
Like, hot damn.
I pointed at something. I did like a little motion with my hands, even though I know that you guys can't see me, and I know our listeners can't see us. Perhaps I've drinking a few too many beers myself. Can neither confirm nor deny.
Favorite moment? What's your favorite moment of the Captain America?
Who wants to start?
You start, Henry.
All right. I think the moment that you talked about with like Cap and scientist Dr.
Erskine.
Yeah. Like, it's one of the few moments, at least in Phase 1, that's not an action scene. That's my favorite scene in the entire movie. Just because I don't know, like, every time I watch it, and like, again, we all rewatch these movies, and I think we saw this 4 times in theaters, and then I don't know how many times after that. And like, every time that scene just kind of gets to me, where it just shows Cap's character. And I think that's the first time where he becomes my favorite Avenger, just because of, you really get to see his character and like what he believes in himself, and what other people start seeing in him. And later on, like, more people realize that, and that's why he becomes essentially the leader of the Avengers, despite not having any quote-unquote superpowers, even though he's like very strong and can run fast and whatnot. But he doesn't have a super suit, and he doesn't have godlike powers in Thor, and he doesn't have, he can't transform into anything, and you still respect him in the Avengers,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, Andrew, you wanna go ahead? You want me to?
I think my favorite scene, like I said, Captain America's definitely up there in Phase 1 for myself. So, I mean, it's hard to pick one particular thing out of, a great movie, but I would say probably one of my favorite things is just that intro sequence. Which is it, the intro sequence? I think it is. Where Hugo Weaving rolls up in his car.
Oh, okay. It starts with the
church,
modern
right?
bookend. No, it starts with the modern bookend of them finding Cap frozen in the ice.
Not that one.
But then it jumps to Norway with Red Skull in Norway. Yeah.
Yeah. And that sets for me the precedence of the movie. You know what I mean? What he's up against, what he's I don't know. It's a really fucking cool thing. He's got that ridiculous car. He pulls over there and goes straight to where the Tesseract's hidden inside that mural. And I don't know. It was really cool. I really enjoyed that part. Now, there's a lot of other character beats and stuff, you know, that are equally cool. When he gets his shield and she tries to shoot him because she's pissed because he was making out with that chick. That was pretty cool. There's a lot of really good spots in that movie. But that first scene with Hugo Weaving as the villain, I thought that was really, I don't know, I was captivated by that. I still am. When I first saw it, I was like, oh man, we're in for some good movie, you know? And when I rewatched it, it just sticks out. It's one of those moments that sticks out for me. What about you? What'd you think? What's your favorite part?
Well, just a bit of a side note, Star-Lord's mom is in this movie.
No.
Yeah, she gives him a little bit of the sex eyes during the USO sequence. She's just kind of like one of the girls that just kind of like fawns over him a little bit. I don't know that it's actually Star-Lord's mom, but it is the same actress that portrays Star-Lord's mom.
It can't be the same. It can't.
We'll leave it open to interpretation if Captain America is in fact Star-Lord's father.
Oh shit!
The timelines might mesh. Who knows? Who's to say? That would be a good Infinity War moment.
Alternate reality shit.
But I think Cap in Winter Soldier alludes to the fact that he's not had relations with any ladies in quite some time. So who's to say? He might not have sealed the deal. So anyway, my favorite moment is not that. It is the moment where Tommy Lee Jones is Colonel Phillips. He's kind of talking with Erskine, and he's kind of just I don't know what the exact dialogue is, but he takes a grenade, he tosses it into the group when they're in boot camp, and Steve immediately just fucking jumps on the grenade. Get back. And Peggy, you see Peggy react for a moment. She's like, "What the fuck?" She's like, "Fuck." To me, that is just such the perfect embodiment of Steve Rogers, of Captain America. He doesn't hesitate for a second.
Instantly.
Like his only reaction is to jump on the grenade and take the blow for his squad mates, who honestly, even in that moment, he probably doesn't respect all that much. I mean, I'm sure he respects them, but he sees himself as the underdog. There's kind of a bit of a sequences where certainly the bully kind of character that they focus on, kind of fucks with him a little bit. But for him to kind of, regardless of who he's around, just to kind of immediately make that reaction, like, to me, that's just that they just nailed the characterization for Steve for Captain America, and to me, that's just the moment for me that's just really symbolic of that. So that's my favorite moment of the movie. I think there's a lot of good moments in the movie, but that, to me, he said,
it sticks out, right?
It's one of the ones that sticks out to me because I full disclosure, I was rewatching this movie. I got fucking emotional just watching this movie. Like, for the first two acts of this movie, I was totally sober. Let the record reflect that I was totally sober when I rewatched this movie, but just like the dialogue between like Erskine and Rogers, and him just acting like it wasn't like obvious like sad moments, like when he crashes the plane at the end. That's an obvious kind of emotional beat that they're trying to hit, but I was just getting emotional watching the whole fucking movie because I'm like, this is such a well realized character, and I can't believe that they absolutely just adapted to the character from the comics as well as they did, maybe even better.
Yeah.
Like, to take that into the live action medium, like, that's tough. Like, that's fucking tough to really kind of capture everything that you want to do, and for them to kind of do it the way that they did, like, I think it was just kind of a combination of, seeing it again, having the experiences that we've had with Cap through Avengers and well beyond, obviously through his own solo movies, through all the Avengers movies. I think it was just kind of maybe an embodiment of all the emotions that have kind of accompanied me as I followed Cap, and then to kind of see him where he starts from, Skinny Steve. I mean, Skinny Steve, man, it's fucking good. It's fucking good.
It is good.
All right. You guys ready to move on?
Yeah. And one last mention too on how great Peggy Carter is. That we talked about her a little bit, but she gets her own TV show after this. Like, that's
yeah. And you fuckers didn't watch it.
I watched the first season. I did watch the first season.
Yeah, you didn't watch the second season. Your fucking reason it got canceled, you dickhead.
Yeah, that's probably my fault. But yeah,
no, it's probably not. But I watched both seasons. They're both well worth checking out. Yeah. And Haley Atwell is wonderful. She's really fun. She's great as Peggy. And I know what I enjoy that we get flashes of Peggy throughout her career.
Yeah.
And honestly, again, having that context of seeing Peggy, throughout her life in terms of, with the SSR, with S.H.I.E.L.D., Beyond, going back and seeing the OG Peggy, it makes me fucking emotional because I'm attached to that character, from obviously originally from Captain America, but just seeing her develop through her own show, through a couple seasons, and then, even just bit roles in some of the other movies that we'll talk about. I don't know, man. Just it's the same thing I think I kind of felt when I saw Skinny Steve, and I'm like, oh man, the character has been through so much. To see them kind of where they started and to see that foundations, it just really, it just made me emotional, inspired me. I just felt like there's a lot of love and care really put into this, and and people get cynical about the about the MCU and about comic book movies and stuff like that. And in some respects, that's probably fair, but I think that there's just a real earnestness to the Captain America character and to his supporting characters, certainly Peggy Carter, that I think is worthy of recognition. So,
yeah.
Yeah, Peggy's great.
She's pretty
great
cool.
Character, great actress. Yeah.
The Avengers. The pinnacle of Phase 1.
Yeah. The culmination of everything that they've worked towards.
Earth's Mightiest Heroes?
Earth's Mightiest Heroes, yeah. So this was released in May 2012, the year after both Thor and Captain America had released. Written and directed by Joss Whedon.
Who better to bring all of these characters together than Joss Whedon?
The king of the nerds.
King of the nerds.
Yeah.
And I mean, you got like what's the best way to put this? If you were to pick a director for the Avengers, right? You got all these
Zack
well-established. You fuck.
Nailed it.
Well put. That wasn't what I was gonna say. Son of a bitch. Now I can't even remember what the fuck I was gonna say. I got Snyderisms in my head now.
If you had to pick the one director to kind of bring it all together.
Yeah, it would have been the guy that did the fucking Michael Bay. God damn it.
Okay, no, I'm sorry. Please continue.
What's this show? I can't even think of the show now. God damn it. What show did Joss Whedon?
Avengers, Joss Whedon. Buffy, Angel, Firefly.
Firefly, boom.
Oh shit, what a great show.
Yeah, right? So you have all of these fucking I can't even go on. You got all these characters that are so strong, and they could very well serve their own independent shows or whatever, movies. Fucking Zack Snyder. God damn it. I'm ruined. Somebody else take over. Oh, fuck. I had a good point, but then fucking Zack Snyder got in my head.
All right, take it away, Colton.
Well, let's talk about the Avengers. Who are the Avengers, you might ask? No one's going to ask because this movie made fucking ridiculous amount of money. But you got Iron Man, you got Captain America, you got the Hulk, you got Thor, you got Black Widow, you got Hawkeye, you got Agent Coulson, you got Agent Maria Hill, you got Director of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nicholas J. Fury, squaring off against the one and only God of Mischief, Loki, and his borrowed army of Chitauri. I mean, it's the fucking Avengers. It's the culmination of everything that has come before it, and it's really kind of not like anything we'd seen prior to that point, to the best of my knowledge. I mean, we've seen sequels, you know, we've seen plenty of sequels, we've seen trilogies, but the sixth movie in a franchise that have, to this point, been, you know, relatively standalone. Certainly Iron Man and Iron Man 2 count as traditional sequels, but the Avengers is really kind of just bringing a lot of disparate elements together, and it's something that, you know, on paper, I don't know. I mean, that seems like that's a pretty big fucking challenge to me, to kind of make all these characters work together in a way that feels consistent within its own movie, that feels consistent with what has come before within their movies that, you know, that have been made already and have been released. And to me, that seems like a pretty big fucking challenge. And to say the least, Joss Whedon was fucking ready for that challenge, because for me, The Avengers is probably the quintessential quote-unquote comic book movie. You know, it's not to say that it's the best movie based on a comic book ever, but to me, this movie, like no other, evokes the feelings of this is a comic book literally translated onto the screen.
Yep.
And I mean, I don't know what it is. To this point, hasn't been replicated. You know, and I'd never seen it prior to this point. It's just, you know, I think it's just seeing all these characters together for the first time. I mean, think about the first time that you saw the Avengers. I mean, like, your fucking mind was in pieces, was it not?
Oh yeah, no doubt about it, dude. I mean,
you can't recreate that ever again, really. I mean,
you can't. I mean, we've had one Avengers sequel, and, you know, obviously we'll talk about that in the future, but it's kind of lightning in the bottle in some ways. We've never seen it before. I mean, you know, Justice League tried to capture it. You know, we've seen kind of franchises try to cross over and try to replicate that, and, you know, we've had shades of it even within the MCU itself that have really, you know, been exciting, but never quite to the extent of just seeing all these characters on screen interacting, you know, all together. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's tough to really kind of put into words, because it is just, you know, for me, you know, this came out at a time where it was everything. You know, it was everything to me. You know,
remember the first time you saw? Captain America and fucking Thor and Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man fight in the forest?
Yeah.
yeah.
So fucking cool. And then Thor smashes that hammer down on his shield and it wrecks the forest. Holy fuck, I lost my shit. That was so cool. So cool. That's probably, I think I'm going to jump ahead to our predisposed, you know, style here we're doing.
Okay.
That's probably my favorite moment. That was just so fucking cool, man.
Ooh.
That shield reverberates. Whoa. Oh, dude,
Yeah.
it was so cool. So cool.
That's a good pick. Not my pick, personally.
Well, what's your pick?
Well, are we already there?
Yeah, we're there. Let's just talk about it, because I'm
right.
excited.
We'll talk about it, and then we'll backtrack. My favorite moment is Mark Ruffalo rides up on his little motorcycle to the battle in New York.
That's exactly my moment. That's exactly
says, "Hey guys, how's it going?" And they're like, Banner? And
I'm always angry.
Well, I say, Black Widow's like, now might be a really good time for you to be angry. And fucking Bruce Banner, Mark Ruffalo, just delivers this fucking piece of dialogue that is just one of the most amazing things to this point, to this day, that I've ever seen in my life. That's my secret, Cap. I guess Cap says it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Cap says it.
Cap says, now might be a really good time for you to get angry. And he says, that's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry. And it just fucking shows him
instantly, immediately
become the Hulk and fucking absolutely just wreck the shit out of the this Leviathan this Chitauri Leviathan that has spawned from the sky. Like, that is just fucking, oh my god, it's everything. And then maybe 10 seconds later, after he kind of wrecks the shit out of that little motherfucker, I guess he's a big motherfucker, we get this fucking amazing shot, and it's an iconic shot, and it's something that I think that will stand the test of time. Is, you get this circular 360 shot of the Avengers assembled. You see everyone. Hulk's hulked out. Everyone's fucking there. They're all hanging out, looking cool, doing some shit with their hands, whatever the case may be. But it's just such a fucking iconic shot, and just that whole sequence of events. And that's probably a 30 to 45 second span that all kind of takes place within, and I'd never seen anything like it. And even now that I've watched Avengers, God knows how many times, if I had to estimate, I probably have seen this movie 20 plus times. I'm not kidding.
Oh my goodness.
I saw this movie, I want to say, at least 5 times in theaters alone. And I've watched it countless times. I watched it before Ragnarok came out. I watched it just now, right before we started recording, pretty much literally. I've seen this movie so many times, and the fact that, really not even just that scene, but really the fact that this whole movie for me just fucking holds up so well is a testament to its quality for me personally.
Yeah.
That holds up. Sure.
It's there's things that I think that I'm kind of just like, I don't. It's not, it doesn't. Some things that maybe worked better on a first viewing that don't work as well on a second viewing or the 20th viewing or whatever the case may be. It still manages to kind of get those emotions out of me of like. Again, it just feels like this is a fucking living, breathing comic book. And even within the MCU, I cannot say the same thing about any other movie within the MCU of kind of reaching those heights, specifically in regards to kind of how it translates the medium. It's not to say that it's necessarily the best in the MCU, but for me, there's just got so many things working in its favor that it would be hard for me to kind of not recognize it for what it means to me. So I don't know if I'm alone on that. You guys can kind of take it from here.
That's I was gonna say that was my favorite scene as well, and just to add on to that,
we're still on favorite moments. I'm sorry, I got a little off pace.
Someone's been drinking brewskis.
Silvestri's score. You mentioned the visuals of that scene, and Alan Silvestri's score. I think they play at least part of the theme for the Avengers.
Yeah,
which this movie itself, I think, has the best score in the entire MCU, in my opinion. Like, the Avengers theme, just you can play that anytime, and like that will get me hyped. Like, they did that in the latest Infinity War trailer, and like just playing that theme was enough to get me hyped. And then you have like that theme playing on top of that incredible Hulk scene, and then all of them, like, you have the camera panning around, like, showing each Avengers. Like, that was just incredible. Like, I don't know how, like, when I'll ever get that feeling again. But it's just, and that's just like one of many incredible scenes. Like, the I think there's a similar scene that kind of showcases all the Avengers. A little bit later in the third act when it's just showing them all like doing kind of their own thing. Like you see Hawkeye like shoot a couple guys. You see and the one scene like where Iron Man reflects his beam off of Cap's shield.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, you're talking about the continuous one shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, Iron Man's like beaming off of Cap's shield, and you see like Hawkeye shooting some stuff, and then Hulk and Thor like on top of a Leviathan fighting it. Like
it was cool.
That scene's incredible in itself. Yeah, like, and I even like the way they introduce each character. Like they start off the movie with the shield part of it. You see Hawkeye early on.
Technically, they started with the outer space part of it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
The Thanos part of it, as it is eventually revealed. But yeah, no, sorry, I don't want to kind of jump on you. I'll relinquish the mic in a minute. That for me, the first time I saw it in the theaters, that was the moment that I knew that I was in love. Was just, it started cosmic.
Yeah, it's cool.
It didn't hold back immediately. Like it just fucking went for it right off the back. And like I said, that just reinforces what I was saying. Is like this feels like this is an unabashed comic book movie. Like they don't give a fuck right now. Like they're going for it. So that was the first signal to me. Like they're all in, baby. Like they're fucking all in. Yeah. So the mic is yours.
But yeah, and then that like you get introduced to S.H.I.E.L.D. a little bit more, and then you get introduced to like each character again. They're assuming that you've seen all of the characters, but it's like, here is Iron Man like building some thing in his new Stark Tower. Here's the Hulk like hiding out, treating kids with, didn't explain, but like treating medically ill kids. Right. Here's the Black Widow like being interrogated and then going to find the Hulk. Here's Cap like literally punching down punching bags. Yeah. With his fists. And then I think the only person that doesn't get an introduction is Thor. He kind of just comes in out of nowhere. Loki even gets his little intro when he comes in, drops down from the Tesseract's beam, I guess. Like it teleports him in, and he's like, "Oh shit, I'm on Earth. Let me kill every lowly human here." And he just starts murdering people. And you're like, "Whoa, this guy's for real."
He's losing it.
Yeah, like Loki. Like I don't know, like in Thor, you're like, he's the villain, but you can really sympathize with him, and in here he just comes off guns blazing. You're like, whoa, all right, Loki's kind of a bad dude.
And I think that's the strongest point of the whole show or the whole movie is how they were able to weave so many very strong leading characters into one narrative, and give them equal opportunity and ample opportunity to flesh them out. I don't feel like any one particular character is really left out in a whole lot of way. They did a very good job of splitting up the spotlight between all of these characters, and I can't really think of. I mean, I don't think that there's so many. I don't think there's a lot of movies that have so many lead roles.
Yeah, I mean, like the first one I think of is like the X-Men movies, but even then, like they're not all main characters. I guess like you could argue for like a few main characters, but these are all main characters in this film. Like,
yeah, they're all very fleshed out.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the runtime, I saw this before online. Like a lot of them have very like similar screen time that they're on.
And they maximized it as well,
Yeah.
By the way, I'd like to make a shout out to Scarlett Johansson kicking those guys' ass in the very beginning.
Yeah, because she's really cool. Yeah.
She's being cool.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. She's really cool.
General coolness.
Shout out. But there's that one thing where she's strapped up in that chair and she's kicking those guys' ass, and she does like a so fucking cool. She does like this double kick, and she kicks off this dude's chest, and then she lands on her hands and then flips back up. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's not the most impressive move though. I think the most impressive move is when she is on the chair and then just like whips her hair back and it hits the dude in the face.
Oh yeah, no, that was pretty cool.
I can't, like after seeing that, I can't go back. I'm like, she just hit him with her hair.
He was disoriented by her coolness, dude. That's what it was.
I guess.
It's like, damn, girl, you smell good, and then boom, you get fucked up. Yeah, So I don't know. That was pretty good though. The whole movie's really good, but like I said, in particular, above everything else, I think it was incredibly fascinating on how well Joss Whedon divvied up the screen time amongst those characters to make all of them equally compelling. And that even goes to like characters like Coulson, and characters like Samuel L. Jackson, who aren't necessarily
Samuel L. Jackson playing the role of Samuel L. Jackson.
Absolutely. So it's an accomplishment in and of itself to take so many lead characters and wrap them up all into one thing to make everybody that's on the screen compelling. And that's really what I walk away from the Avengers, because I feel attached to each and one of everybody that's on the screen. So it's pretty awesome, pretty awesome movie.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, it's a really impressive achievement to be able to have. I mean, these are all basically leading actors. I mean, all these guys either literally have had their own movies or could have their own movies, as is the case with Scarlett Johansson, Jeremy Renner. I mean, I don't know. We'll probably never get a real Hawkeye movie.
We're gonna get a Jeremy movie.
To be honest,
totally
we're gonna get a Jeremy. Well, I mean, say Jeremy Renner has led movies before. I guess is kind of the point overall. But I mean, to be able to balance those, and I would say, I think I kind of talked about it slightly, or I don't remember where, but I think that Hawkeye is probably the only one that really gets the short end of the stick as far as development, because he gets he gets turned into a mindless villain for 2/3 of the movie. He gets to do some cool shit in the third act as proper Hawkeye, but in terms of characterization, there ain't shit going on there.
Yeah.
But I do agree, other than that, across the board, I think there's a really good balance of kind of exploring a little bit in terms of each character, whether it's, Tony Stark, being willing to make that sacrifice play, Captain America, adjusting to a very different world than he's used to. Banner, really becoming accustomed to the role of, accepting, both Banner and the Hulk and moving beyond that. I mean, you can kind of go into it a little bit for each character, but there is a lot of balance, certainly in terms of screen time, as you mentioned, Henry, but I think really in just terms of kind of character development, as with any movie, certain characters get a little bit more focus than others, and maybe Iron Man probably has the most prominent arc, but I mean, it's fucking Robert Downey Jr. He's the bread maker for really. I mean, prior to this point for the MCU, I would say, really in terms of box office and really in terms of probably recognition as well. So I think that's absolutely par for the course, but it doesn't feel like. In some ways it does feel like an Iron Man 2.5, in the sense that it does give him a lot of focus and a lot of material to work with, but it doesn't feel like it does it to the detriment of other characters in the movie. So I wouldn't classify it as such. And personally, I would, it's the Avengers. I mean, it's about fucking everyone. So, I agree. Definitely mad props to Joss Whedon for being able to really construct that balance and maintain that balance kind of throughout the movie. And really for, in terms of the narrative, to really kind of construct it in a way for me that transitions very gracefully, I would say scene from scene. I think that's what stuck out to me kind of upon a rewatch, is that, you don't win with, wars aren't won with sentiment, they're won with soldiers, and then boom, Captain America comes up.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of stuff kind of along those lines where it just feels to me like there was a lot of thought put into the screenplay. in terms of trying to, establish balance between the characters, but also in terms of just trying to achieve a general structure for everything that feels, relevant to the story, but also feels cohesive in terms of kind of just, really kind of getting in it, getting it out there. So I like Avengers a lot.
I agree with you there.
Yeah, I guess we already did favorite moments, so we probably don't need to rehash that segment. Henry, you got anything else to really kind of,
yeah,
touch on for the Avengers?
I got a question that I haven't thought of too much myself of how I would react to it, but having watched, I know we all watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but do you think having Coulson come back takes away from this movie? Like, because he, we're already talking all spoilers in this, but
sure.
locally clearly kills Coulson. Coulson dies, and that's kind of the spark that brings the Avengers together. But then people who don't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. might not know that they kind of bring him back to life, and he's, doing his thing there. Like, does that affect the Avengers for you personally, or I don't know, what do you think about that?
It's interesting because I actually thought about this while I was watching the movie, and I kind of wanted to write a note about it, but by the time I was done with the third act, it had escaped my brain. It's a really fascinating question because, I think they've actually kind of constructed it in a way that is respectful, I think, to both people that watch just the films, without kind of really any regard for the television shows, and then, the crazy assholes like us that go for everything. And kind of what I mean by that is that, if you watch just the movies, Coulson's death is never addressed really ever again past the Avengers, to the point where, as far as we know, as of the most recent MCU movie, all of the members of the Avengers just assume that Coulson's dead, right?
Yeah, that's my take on it, yeah.
Exactly. Whereas in the sense that, if you watch the television shows, if you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., if you're invested in that, I don't know. I mean, it's, I'm someone that has watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and is current with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I was kind of wondering about that myself in the sense that, like, well, the whole push, the quote-unquote the push for the Avengers to, do what they did, to be able to kind of act the way they did, to save the world the way that they did, was in large part because of Coulson's death. Fury kind of manipulated it to be, kind of that thing that kind of pushed him over the edge. But I wondered, because I don't know. I mean, and like I said, I've watched Avengers so many times that, I could probably recite the dialogue at this point. I know what's happening. It's not a surprise to me. But I did find that, interestingly enough, when I was watching it this time, I got emotional when Coulson died. And I have watched 4+ seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. up until where they've aired now. I knew that he'd come back. But I think that what really kind of made it emotional for me is that it's not about Coulson himself coming back. It's about the effect that Coulson's death has on everyone else. And, that's not to kind of, make a minimal, that's not to reduce kind of the role that Coulson has, beyond that. It's just in the sense that for what this movie was trying to accomplish, it wasn't so much about Coulson's arc per se. It was about everyone else's arc, and Coulson was kind of, in some ways, a plot device to kind of play into that. And so I found it emotional from that standpoint. But I also enjoyed it in the sense that, fuck it, man. Like, we've had a lot of amazing seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. A show that started, honestly, pretty roughly and really found its feet, pretty late in the first season, honestly. And
remember how traumatizing it was to see how he came back?
Yeah, it was pretty. Well,
like,
it was annoying at first too because they dragged that shit out. Well, I maybe I have a different experience than you guys because I don't know if you guys watched it during the broadcast.
No, I grinded. I
just Netflixed that shit.
Yeah, I Netflixed it. So
I bet it plays so much better on Netflix because the way that fucking shit was broadcast was so fucking annoying. Like it was like, here's an episode. It's been 17 months. Here's another episode. Here's fucking 17 years. Here's another episode. Like, it wasn't that exaggerated, but it was like, it was so fucking irregular that I was just like, I just want to know how they fucking came back. Like, I was pissed about it.
That was awful,
because the way that they kind of shown it, like they kept pussyfooting around and it was pissing me off. But And in retrospect, looking back on it, it's one of those things where I was like, okay, that was it is a pretty harrowing experience that he went through. But at the same time, I'm also, at the end of things, I'm like, you know what, it may kind of make his, quote unquote, sacrificing the Avengers kind of, I don't know, it kind of undoes it in some ways, but
in a lot of ways it doesn't. Though he certainly suffered.
He did, and again, it doesn't really narratively impact the Avengers beyond in any sort of meaningful way. But Clark Gregg's fucking excellent. Like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. would not work without
Coulson.
Without Coulson, without Clark Gregg's presence in there. I mean, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we don't need to get too into the weeds here, but it's a great fucking cast across the board, but it took a lot of time for them to get their shit together to really kind of coalesce. And I think even from day one, Clark Gregg had the benefit of being part of that role for a few years at that point that, he could immediately, kind of be the guy that we needed him to be in that moment, whereas it took some of the other cast members a little bit of time to kind of get their feet wet and figure out what they were trying to go for with their characters. And again, a lot of respect for really everyone on that show. I mean,
on a side
Ward,
note.
Ward was, sorry, I'm getting way off base here, but like fucking Ward was a nothing character for so long, and then he was a fucking great character.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, yeah. Please get me off Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'll go forever.
Let's rank these movies, man.
Yeah. We're is it, we don't say. I mean, we're good with Avengers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, anything else we want to talk about on that?
It's a great movie.
Yeah, it's a good fucking movie. It's a great fucking movie. So yeah, rankings. We're gonna do all 6 movies, but we're gonna start from 6, and we're gonna go individually on this. We all kind of created these lists individually, so
Yeah.
We're interested to see how everyone feels about it, as much as the listeners are, to kind of see how we feel about it. So, number 6,
Hulk.
I just heard you fucking yell, Hulk!
Hulk smash.
He was ready. He was bloody ready to go, mate. I have Iron Man 2 as my number 6.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be the only one to pick Iron Man 2 as my number 6, but yeah.
That's fair. It's a fair statement. It's a close pick.
It is. It really is a toss-up between 5 and 6. These are the ones that I was kind of like, honestly, you could go either way.
Yeah, I feel like our lists are going to be similar after this.
Yeah, I think Iron Man 2 for me, a lot of great moments in it, but just as a cohesive piece, it's just a mess. And so I kind of, as a body of work, as an overall kind of rating, I kind of felt like, it's fine, it's okay, but it's not good. And yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it's not a bad movie, but it's the worst of the 6 that we've talked about today. So,
well, it's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah. My opinion.
Yeah,
too,
I said. Yeah, I mean, I think Hulk's pretty interchangeable here too. I think you're just fine picking it as number 6. So no real disagreements there, honestly. So
what's your number 5?
Number 5? Well, number 5 for me is the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, obviously.
My number 5 happens to be Iron Man 2.
Oh,
what a surprise!
Who'd have thunk
right?
it? All right. I think it'll get a little bit more interesting beyond here. Number 4.
I feel like we're going to agree on most of this. My number 4 is Thor.
Andrew?
I would agree with Henry. Thor.
I would agree with both of you. Number 4 is Thor because it rhymes.
with 4.
That's the only reason.
4 and Thor.
Also because it's less good than 3, 2, and 1, but also because it rhymes. Mostly because it rhymes, really. All right. Well, that was pretty easy. Number 3.
Yeah.
Number 3 for me is Iron Man.
Oh, Henry?
Number 3 for me was Captain America, the First Avenger.
Going with Henry on this one. Captain America, the First Avenger is my number 3.
For me, my designation for Iron Man being number 3 is that, and Captain America and Thor both suffered from it, but that last act was just hard. But for me, the at least, I don't know. Thor, I feel like Captain America had stronger high points than Thor did. Now, Iron Man represented, Iron Man had strong. Iron Man represented a whole lot, and it obviously set a very strong foundation. But I think from a thematic experience, I walked away with more from Captain America than I did Thor. So that's why Iron Man's lower on my list.
Yeah. All right. I can go there. I can go there. I mean, I'm still sticking with what I had, but yeah. I mean, I could definitely see the argument that you have there. So number 2.
My number 2 is Captain America.
What? What? What?
What's a surprise?
What?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. That's fair. I think Henry and well, actually, I don't want to speak for you. I had Iron Man at number 2. What about you?
I had the Iron Man.
The Environments?
Yeah.
The Environment? Is he about the environment?
Yes.
It's like Captain Planet.
Okay.
He
Captain Planet.
He wants to replenish iron in the earth.
Very good. You know, I think, I mean, Iron Man's, I think it's a really great movie. I think, along with Captain America, it does suffer third act woes, but I think that given what it brought to the table, I think that RDJ's performance is fucking excellent. I know it's tough for me. I mean, honestly, like I said, I really wouldn't be upset by anyone putting Captain America as number 2 as you did, Andrew, because, you know, Captain America is my favorite character. I just thought that for what Iron Man brought to the table in terms of the MCU and really everything about it, RDJ, I mean, it was just a combination of factors for me that I was just like, this is just such a fucking unexpectedly amazing movie that I put it above Captain America. I just think that its third act is probably also slightly better than Captain America's third act. You know, just in terms of construction of it. I mean, Captain America was probably a hair away from stealing the deal for number 2 here, but I don't know.
Yeah.
No one's really wrong here because we all have number 1 as the exact same movie.
Right?
That is correct.
It's the Avengers. And I'm glad that we all agreed on this because I wondered about this. I wondered if, you know, someone might go with kind of one of the more origin or solo movies as the number 1 here, but
Avengers
again,
was the most consistent movie, right? I mean,
it is, and I think
can't beat it.
I agree. I agree. You know, I think that's where it shines is that it is consistently first act, second act, third act. The best movie. I mean, you know, Captain America, maybe its first act is better than Avengers' first act. That's probably fair. But as a body of work, in terms of evaluating it as a whole,
right?
The Avengers is good to start with, continues to be good, and then just fucking ends really strongly. You know, and it's consistent, and that's something that a lot of, I mean, really kind of looking back on it, a lot of the Phase 1 movies for me are inconsistent about is that they very often run into trouble here and there. I mean, I think with Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man, it's... I don't know. Actually, Thor is probably the second act more than anything else for me, but Captain America and Iron Man probably definitely the third act. Probably definitely. Incredible Hulk and Iron Man 2 are just, shaky, I guess. Not necessarily bad, but not necessarily good.
Right.
And the Avengers for me is just in a fucking ballpark of its own. It's the fucking Avengers, man.
Yeah.
It's good shit.
I mean, I feel like for me, the Avengers it's like Christmas, but with more meaning.
More meaning than fucking Christmas? Goddamn.
Yeah.
We need to change our holidays.
Well,
Avengers Day.
Characters as much as we do. That's fair. All right. Well, I mean, I think that across the board, I would say that we had some differences in terms of rankings, but I think across the board, a lot of general similarities. So interesting. We're going to continue our rankings through our next episode into phase 2, and once we get into a wider pool of movies that we're picking from, I wonder
shit's going to get complicated.
I think it's going to get more interesting.
I think so too. I think that phase 2 on, I think the quality kind of ups in a pretty big way, and so that will kind of change our overall thoughts on it. I mean, I think we're going to enjoy most of what we talk about, but I think that in terms of the rankings, I think that personal preferences are definitely going to play a big difference. So you guys got any final thoughts you want to add on phase 1 as a whole before we kind of wrap this thing up?
No, it's just kind of incredible that it all worked out, and that if it wasn't for movies like Iron Man and the success of that and the success of the Avengers, that we wouldn't be where we are today. We're like, every studio wants their own cinematic universe. We're about to have a third Avengers film, and like it just did a lot for entertainment.
Oh yeah.
Well stated. Andrew, anything?
No, man.
Alrighty.
I have one more thing to add. I have even if I had to offer kind of really one last thought as far as Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 1, it would probably be, I'm slapping the bass, man. I'm slapping the bass.
What would your one line be, Henry?
What?
What would your one line be, Henry? If you had to pick one line from phase 1, what would it be?
I
mean, like a line of dialogue?
Yeah. Most quotable line from phase 1.
Easily that one that I just had. I use it all the time. The Christmas line.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And Colton, phase 1 most quotable line?
Putting me on the spot here, man. I'm not ready for this. Oh.
Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box of scraps.
That's my most quotable line. Hands down.
How many times can you quote that though?
Listen, I can quote that so many times. I quote this so many times. Mechanic starts working on a car.
I was gonna say you're like trying to sell a car.
I walk into the garage and the mechanics are working on a car and they can't figure that shit out. You know what I tell them?
Tony Stark.
It's fucking great. So good.
Well, I was gonna try to quote the great Justin Hammer as he was talking about the ex-wife, but I don't know that speech in its entirety, so I feel like that's probably not the most quotable.
I know what you're talking about, though.
It would make Ulysses look like it was written in crayon, and it would read it to you.
A fucking bullet. And it was a dud. That was so funny.
Oh, Yeah. Shout out to Sam Rockwell.
Yeah. And he dances on the stage like he said those fucking dance moves. So good.
Since I can't actually recall the full quote, I'll go with my old standby. It's my secret calf. I'm always angry.
All right.
It's me. I mean, it's part of the number one movie, so it's only deserving of the number one quote. So,
do you want to give the listeners a pre runoff for Phase 2? What do we have to look forward to for Phase 2?
Phase 2, we've got a lot of things to look forward to. We've got Iron Man 3, Thor 2, The Dark World. It's really just Thor: The Dark World, but that's a NeoGAF joke for people that were part of the old NeoGAF community before it got obliterated. We've also got Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Motherfucking Galaxy, Avengers: Age of Ultron, and Ant-Man.
We got a lot of good things to look forward to. Our rankings are going to be fun. I'm going to enjoy watching these ones.
Yeah, it's gonna fuck up rankings in a pretty good way, I expect. So that's what you have to look forward to. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we call this a day. I want to say again, thank you for listening. Again, whether you're a patron of the podcast or not, it doesn't matter. Thank you for hanging out with us. Hanging out with Henry, Andrew, and myself, listening to us babble on, mostly drunkenly, about the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 1.
Always a good experience.
Let your friends know about us. Either for regular episodes, give them a little bit of taste, and if they're interested, get them onto the Patreon. Help us out a little bit. They said, they're going to get some bonus episodes out of it, get early access to that. And there's good shit in for it for everyone, so make it happen. You can find us at watchreviewrepeat.com. That's going to be the best way to find our socials. So we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. You can email us and get in touch with us that way. Our Twitter, if you want to go directly there, is at WRRPod. I am at CBro360 on Twitter. Andrew is at DMeadows91. And Henry, I don't know what you're at. Hopefully you can cite it right now.
Yeah. No, I am at Heroic Henrique with an HENRIQUE. All one word with heroic. That's on Twitter.
That's where you need to find them. All right, intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. And that's going to do it. So make sure you check out our next bonus episode covering the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 2. And if you're listening to this early, make sure you keep an eye out for our next episode, whatever that may be. So that's it for me. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, night, week, whatever the case may be. And I will let Henry and Andrew take us out on this beautiful episode.
Yeah, thank you both for having me. This was a ton of fun. And I think to the listeners, the only thing that sounds cooler at a party than saying you listen to podcasts is saying that you are a Patreon subscriber to a podcast.
Oh,
that will earn you some points.
Ooh, good delivery. Ooh. Nice.
Shit.
Everybody have a good night.